Me 39F with my 44M depressed colleague who has accused me of bullying him. I manage a team of 12 people and last year had a 13th member added when other managers refused to deal with him any longer. He is diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety disorder. He is morbidly obese and suffers from musculoskeletal problems related to the obesity and diabetes. When they came to me it was because I have helped other mentally ill staff members and I was happy to take them on as I felt I could help them. We did make progress and steadily increased their level of work. It has never reached the level considered acceptable but I made accommodations to relieve pressure, hoping this would lead to a sustained long-term improvement. I sought out equipment to help them be more physically comfortable given their obesity. I felt we were making progress. Unfortunately they committed a serious breach of security, sent out personal information to someone not legally entitled to have it, and I had to place them on formal disciplinary action. Since then they have been on sick leave for over 3 months. They are now subject to attendance management procedures and have reached out to a local mental health group and advised them that I have bullied and harassed them. This bullying and harassment has, according to them, has made it impossible for them to return to work. I have documented evidence that this is not true. When they were told they needed to move away from me for health and safety reasons they became very distressed and demanded to stay with me for mental health reasons. I have signed documentation where they state I am supportive and they don't want the reasonable accommodations I have offered, shorter days, fewer days, longer breaks etc. I have a meeting with them and their support workers from the mental health group and I have no idea how to handle this. So how do I handle it? I can prove they are lying and they have a pattern of lying to get themselves out of trouble. I have no concerns about my bosses because they are well aware that this is an utterly unfounded allegation. My worry is that they are completely unsuited to the job and because they point-blank refuse to acknowledge they are in any way responsible for the mistakes they are making it is impossible to correct them. TLDR have been accused of bullying when I haven't. Relevant comments. When told to go to HR. Reply. I have spoken with our internal HR but they are terrified that any accusations of bullying a person with mental health problems could be problematic as it a hot topic at present. I have referred the person for counseling internally and they have told me repeatedly, documented, that they have taken up this service. My concern is this meeting is not an internal meeting, it is with people who specifically represent people with mental health problems and I don't know how to respectfully say that the person is lying through their teeth without sounding like a bully. To be clear, their lies aren't malicious and I don't believe this one is either. It is something said to solve an immediate need. So in this case it is because they need to explain the amount of time they have had off sick and admitting it is because of their own actions is too terrifying. So, I am being bullied means it's something that is happening to them and they have no control over it. The reality is they do have control over it but they are so used to being the victim in all situations that they refuse to acknowledge this is not actually true. Commenter 2. Judging from your explanation here, it appears that you have an understanding and empathetic attitude toward this person and situation. That attitude, along with the documentation you have regarding accommodations you've offered, should go a long way in your defense. What, exactly, is he saying you've done to bully him? I am not a professional in this area, just have extensive experience working with people with mental health problems in social work education settings. Reply. He believes that by pointing out his security breach and substandard level of work I have bullied him. He doesn't allege that he isn't doing this, just that by expecting more I am bullying and harassing him. I am making allowances. For example, other members of staff are expected to deal with approximately 16 cases a day accurately. I am happy for him to do 2 if he does them right. Unfortunately he can do 2 cases but not correctly. Unfortunately, by allowing him to work at a slower pace he believes that he should be allowed the same scope of error that someone who is working 16 cases, and as such he is being bullied by expecting him to get his 2 cases 100% right when someone who is working 16 cases has an allowance for minor errors. OOP explains HR more. Yeah, HR's response is basically, fire him but don't leave us open to a lawsuit. It is not helpful because I don't want to fire him. He is not currently in a position to do his job to the standard required, but I don't want to detrimentally impact his future. He won't resign for health reasons as he feels it will prevent him getting another job and HR want him gone without actually doing anything. I'm stuck in the middle because as manipulative as his mental health issues are, they are real. If I wouldn't get fired for doing it, I'd post a copy of the 4-page email I got in response to my specific questions. It was large swathes of the DDA copied and pasted with vague remarks about support, reasonable allowances, and work-life balance. I can only assume they put someone's idiot nephew in charge of the email box on the day I contacted them. They are centralized and are notorious for not giving out specific instructions for fear of having them challenged. Their main purpose is to protect themselves. I have no idea how they keep their jobs, to be honest. OOP last comment. Thank you. His previous warnings have been well documented and evidenced, so I am not too concerned about legal action. I was just really thrown by the accusation of bullying and harassment and had built up a scenario where I was going to be attacked by his advocates. The great responses like yours has put my mind at ease. It is sad that he has cast himself as the victim in all of this, but I am determined not to be drawn into that mindset, and I won't allow myself to cast into the role of their oppressor because it is simply not true. Update. Well, the meeting went ahead as planned, and thanks to the wonderful advice and tips from people who kindly responded, I was calm and thought I was prepared. Boy, was wrong. My colleague and his support worker were both there and the meeting started really well. I asked how he was doing, what steps he was taking to prepare himself to return to work, etc., and nothing unexpected came up. As arranged, I brought up the allegations of bullying and asked for some specific examples to help me understand what was happening. After worrying myself sick about this, his answer was actually pretty disappointing. He gave no examples and only offered vague explanations about his anxiety, making him overreact to other people's conversations, which made him feel like he was being picked on. I advised him, and my boss backed me up, that there was literally nothing I could do about that. I patiently explained that I could not ban people from talking and I would not sit in silence in order to ensure that he never heard anything he didn't like. My boss stressed that his poor performance needed to be addressed and that was part of my job and that doing it was in no way harassment. His support worker did agree with that, and we had a brief chat about how I could better communicate. To be honest, there was nothing they said that was particularly helpful, but I did agree to be mindful of their condition moving forward. Then it got weird. I asked if there was anything I could do to help him transition back into work. This normally involves a phased return, changing to part-time hours, etc., but not this time. As I was talking, he started taking paperwork out of a folder, and I should have realized something was up when his support worker sighed deeply and slumped down in his chair. My colleague requested that he be allowed to bring an emotional support animal to work with him, namely a support cat. We are in the UK and this is not the norm, so I was a bit surprised. He had not settled on a breed yet but was torn between an Abyssinian or a Siamese. I thought pointing out some obvious difficulties with this idea might make him realize how inappropriate this would be. For example, I pointed out we have a guide dog in the building for a partially sighted colleague. His name is Rufus and is by far the most popular person in the building, the dog not the human, and they may not get along with a cat. He responded by telling me that it was illegal to discriminate by favoring one disability over another, and if a blind person could have a guide dog, a depressed person could have a cat. I moved on from this, clearly idiotic, point and asked how a cat would react to being placed in a pet carrier twice a day to travel to and from work. He advised me he would train the cat. My boss became very agitated at this point, demanding, "How the hell do you train a cat?" Not to be deterred, my colleague stated that in the worst-case scenario he would leave the cat at work overnight and only take him home on weekends. I asked how he intended to cope with litter tray cleaning, etc. Given his serious weight issues, bending down to empty a litter tray would be difficult for him. He presented me with a spreadsheet he had created with a team rota for cleaning up after the cat and feeding. He had also costed out food, insurance, and the actual cost of the cat on said spreadsheet had an expected donation from each team member, on a sliding scale depending on how he perceived their financial circumstances to be. I was paying the most as I am single, earn more, and have no dependent children. The spreadsheet was quite impressive, color-coded and everything. I politely said no to that, and he then started insisting the company should pay as it would be a legitimate business expense to accommodate his disabilities. At this point I realized my boss was still repeating, "How the hell do you train a cat?" And the support worker was shaking his head and muttering, "I told you not to do this." So I made a unilateral decision on behalf of my company and advised him in no certain terms that we would not be buying any cats, we would not be cleaning up after any cats, because we would not be permitting him to bring any cats on to the premises. He was not happy. He complained that I was making it impossible for him to return to work. My boss took a break from his cat training mantra to say that we had perhaps gone as far as we could for the time being and we should end the meeting at this point. As we were leaving, he did make a point of telling the support worker, "There will be no bloody cats." The support worker nodded and agreed this was entirely fair. I didn't hear anything from him for a week or so, then received another 4-week sick note from him, so I called, as per our company procedure, to check in and see how he was doing. He was still very unhappy about my discriminatory anti-cat stance and advised he would be taking it further. 2 weeks later I received a letter from what initially looked like a local solicitor's office. It advised me I was being sued for breaking disability discrimination laws. The letter itself was filled with bizarre, mainly, American legalese that seemed to be culled from Law and Order episodes. On closer examination, the letterhead had been edited to change the contact details to his home phone number and personal mobile. I'm not sure whose address he used, but it wasn't the solicitor's in question. I handed it to my boss, who had also received one, so both were forwarded to our legal department. I was advised to have no further contact with him. The legal bods have informed me that his contract has been terminated with immediate effect. I am honestly stunned as to how it turned out. I half expected him to be terminated due to the amount of time off sick and his unwillingness to address his performance issues, but I would never have guessed it would end like this. It is both funny and sad. Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to calm my nerves before the meeting. It really did mean the world to me. TLDR, meeting started fine, took a weird turn and went downhill from there. Stories number 2. My best friend's GF ruined my food. I don't know how to tell my best friend that I'm pissed with his GF. I, 35M, am a foodie. I've been cooking since I was 10 and I even have a personal cookbook of the recipes I've accumulated over the years. I know my recipes to heart so much so that I often don't need a recipe to cook my dishes. My closest friends and I decided to have dinner and board game night last week, to which my best friend Clark, 34M, volunteered to host. He requested me to cook my spicy Italian sausage pasta and said that I could cook my pasta dish at his house. He even joked that he gets to keep any of the leftovers, which was fine by me. I agreed to this arrangement because his kitchen was equipped for me to cook my dish, and I didn't need to worry about transporting my dish. I arrived at Clark's house a few hours early with my ingredients in tow along with board games from my collection. Yes, I'm a board gamer too. Clark's girlfriend of 4 months, Sasha, 32F, let me in the house. I asked her where Clark was, and she said he was out doing errands and buying snacks and refreshments for later. I proceeded to the kitchen to prepare the ingredients and start cooking. My cooking of the sauce went well. The flavors were balanced to my liking. It had saltiness from the pancetta and the Parmesan rind, sweetness and tartness from the onions and canned and fresh tomatoes, heat from Calabrian chiles, and herbaceous notes from a blend of fresh and dried herbs. After finishing the sauce, I took it off the heat and prepared a pot of water for the pasta. I then set the pot of water over the stove but put it over low heat. I planned to freshen up a little and cook the pasta nearer the serving time. I then went to the guest bathroom to shower and change clothes. After freshening up, I headed back to the kitchen. On my way back, I asked Sasha, who was in the living room, where Clark was. She said that he was on his way and would be back in 20 minutes. She then told me this: "Oh, by the way, I tasted your tomato sauce, and it lacks salt. I saw this video and the chef said that the sauce should be as salty as the sea. Don't worry, I've already fixed your sauce." "You're welcome." I thought she was kidding, so I just responded with, "Thanks, I guess." I was also worried if she oversalted my sauce. I quickly made my way back to the kitchen to taste my sauce. To my horror, my complex, balanced sauce was now as salty as the Dead Sea. I was fuming because my sauce was ruined by, in Gordon Ramsay's words, an idiot sandwich. She definitely misheard the advice from the video because you're supposed to have the pasta water as salty as the sea, not the sauce. I wanted to scold Sasha for ruining my sauce, but I had to fix my sauce first because my friends were bound to arrive in less than an hour. Unfortunately, I don't have the time or the ingredients to make a new sauce. I added a mix of lemon juice and honey, a can of crushed tomatoes, tomato paste, and splashes of water. I minimized the saltiness of the sauce, but the sauce was still off. I was thinking of no longer serving my dish, but my friends were excited about my food, and I didn't want to waste food. I just hoped no one would notice how bad the sauce was. My friends arrived, we all sat at the dinner table, and we all got a portion of each dish. While we were eating, I noticed my friends were pushing my pasta to the sides of their plates. Once everyone was ready for dessert, I offered to help Lexi prepare and serve the desserts. Lexi is also a foodie, but she's a baker and she's excellent at making pastries and desserts. When Lexi and I were alone in the kitchen, she asked me why my pasta was so salty. That's when I told her everything. I then told Lexi that I'd let it go for the meantime, and we should just enjoy the rest of the night. I was doing so well to not show I was bothered, but then Clark, along with Sasha, approached me and said my pasta dish was saltier than he remembered. I wanted to say that his GF ruined my dish, but I decided to allow her to own up for her mistake. So, I told him that I had no idea what went wrong. I mentioned that I properly salted my food, tasted the sauce as I went along, and made it a point to say my pasta water was seawater salty, but that has never affected the saltiness of my pasta dishes. When I said the pasta water thing, I made sure to look at Sasha. She did not say anything. I just ended the conversation by saying I sometimes have my off days. The rest of the night went well. I even won some of the games, which kind of lifted my spirits from the pasta debacle. Before I left Clark's house, I asked him if he was keeping the leftovers. He said he was taking half, so I offered to take home the other half. It's been a week since the pasta incident and I still feel disrespected by what Sasha did. I want to tell my best friend that his GF fucked up my dish, but I don't want to make a big issue over pasta sauce. How would you go about this? Update: I've been reading everyone's comments and I would like to thank everyone for their advice. I generally feel uncomfortable with confrontations, which is why I let it slide and even took the blame. But now I realize that I should stand up for myself more, be more proud of the work I do, and I shouldn't be concerned about sparing Sasha's feelings because, in the first place, she disrespected me. I have to put her in her place. Some of you thought that she either hated me or was jealous of me. I have no idea if she does. In the 4 months, Clark and her have been dating, I've only met her twice or thrice and we didn't even interact much. I'm now even more compelled to tell Clark about what she did, because if she's able to disrespect the boundaries of a stranger to her, who knows what boundaries she'll cross with a romantic partner. I've messaged Clark to meet up, without Sasha, for lunch tomorrow, and he agreed. I'll probably update everyone after my lunch with Clark. Top comments. Commenter 1. Your GF emptied the salt container in the sauce after I finished it. I tried to fix it, but, well, you tasted the result. Commenter 2. I'd have told the truth as soon as it came up. I'd also have told Sasha I didn't appreciate her help. Commenter 3. You should not have protected her, especially in the conversation with Clark. You should have outed her idiocy right then and there. Why didn't you? That's not being polite, that's being a doormat. Stop that. Find your spine and stand up for yourself. Now everyone thinks you screwed up instead of the real fact that his idiot girlfriend ruined it. Update. Thank you for all the comments and advice on my previous post. I met with Clark for lunch to tell him about last week's board game night. I told him that Sasha oversalted my sauce because of a video she saw, and I tried my best to fix it but failed. I also allowed her to fess up, but she stayed silent. I apologized for lying to him by taking the blame for her mistake because I was afraid of confrontation, and I didn't want the rest of the game night to be ruined by throwing her under the bus. I was afraid that he wouldn't believe me and that I was deflecting the blame back to Sasha. Instead, he said, that makes much more sense. He then told me more about Sasha. When he met Sasha, she was trying to make lifestyle content. Currently, she wants to make cooking videos, but the videos she watched for inspiration were cooking hacks, where people were dumping dried pasta, raw meat, tons of cheese, etc. in a baking dish and then throwing it in the oven to cook. She even saw the countertop spaghetti video which she wanted to make for Clark's dad and sister when they were over at his house during the holidays. He refused to let her do that. Before we finished our meal, I told Clark to talk to his GF and I expect an apology from her and for her to also apologize to the rest of our friends for ruining last week's dinner. He asked me if I wanted to go to his place to get an apology now because Sasha was there. I declined because it would feel like we were forcing an apology from her by surprising her. After a few hours, I got a call from Clark. They got into a huge fight, and they broke up. When he asked her to apologize, she refused and threw a fit. She was so annoyed that Clark would rave about me and Lexi's food but never did the same when she cooked for him. He said that he always thanked and appreciated her efforts, but sometimes her cooking didn't go well. She served him raw chicken twice. In her rant, she said that her fixing the sauce was her way of saying that she was better than me, but when her plan backfired, she kept quiet and let me take the blame, and I dumbly fell on that sword. Some of you in the comments from the previous post were right, but what got Clark to break up with her was when she called Clark and our friend group a bunch of useless losers. He, in turn, defended us by saying that we were the most reliable supportive group of friends he's ever had. We helped him get through his mom's terminal cancer diagnosis and passing. He told her to get out and they were over. Clark assured me he'd be okay, and he needed some space. I told him to call if he needed anything. It seems I won't be getting my apology, but that's what I get for not speaking up. Lesson learned. At least we won't have Sasha for our next game night, which I'll host. Top comments. Commenter 1. I'm glad you told your friend the truth, and she ended up exposing herself as a red flag. Hope your turn hosting game night goes well. Commenter 2. Fuck man, so many people need to get the fuck off TikTok and do even the smallest amount of critical thinking for the benefit of themselves. Stories number 3. You think women look better without makeup? Great, don't look at me. A coworker of mine, M, 30s, who I've, F, 20s, spoken to a handful of times in my 3.5 years at this job and have only had pleasant but short interactions with, decided to get bold one night. I was doing my closing duties and was wearing a full face of makeup with some sparkly eyeshadow. If I come in for a late closing shift where I can sleep in and do makeup, I like to do something a little fun and extra. My guy had the audacity and gall to come up to me while I'm clearly busy. I just have to tell you something, okay? I think women look better without makeup. It's just too much. Did you do dance or something when you were younger? A natural face is better, he says while wrinkling his nose with a stank face while looking me right in my dolled up eyes. Excuse me, well now that I know the makeup I like to do is a creep repellent, I'll happily go out of my way to wake up early and wear a full face of makeup every day for weeks. It was honestly a boost of motivation to wake up early and have an extra healthy breakfast too. So now he says hi, I nod and walk away. I'm your coworker, not some doll for you to ogle at. He also knew I have a long-term boyfriend who also works in the same place we do. ICK. Stories number 4. My 68F mother was given away for adoption. Now her 69M, 72M, 65F bio siblings are asking her to care for her 96F bio mother. I, 35F, grew up in the US, born and raised in Austin, Texas. My father, 70M, is Canadian, and my mother, 68F, is Greek. Every summer, we vacationed in Greece with my maternal grandparents. When I was 25, my parents retired and moved permanently to Greece after my mother inherited a house and a significant amount of money from her mother when she passed away. That's when things took a strange turn. During the last few months of my grandmother's life, my mom went to Greece to care for her, as she was no longer able to take care of herself. In her final days, my grandmother revealed a shocking secret: my mom was adopted. She wasn't the biological child of the parents who raised her. Instead, she was the daughter of my grandmother's cousin. Apparently, in Greece, decades ago, it was common for struggling families with many children to give a baby to a relative who couldn't have kids. My mother was devastated. She grieved the fact that she never knew her real family and that no one ever told her. After my grandmother passed, she decided to move to Greece to reconnect with the biological family she never met. She traveled to the region where her biological mother lived and met her for the first time, along with 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Her oldest brother was especially emotional because he vaguely remembered the day they gave my mother away as a baby. But from the start, my mom was hurt that none of them had ever tried to find her. Their excuse was that she had moved to the US, and it was difficult to track her down, while her biological mother said she had made a pact with her cousin, my adoptive grandmother, never to reveal the truth. The entire village had been told that my mom had died as a baby, so no one ever questioned it. For the past 10 years, my parents have lived in Greece, and my mom has built a close relationship with her siblings. However, her relationship with her biological mother has remained distant and formal. She never got over the fact that this woman kept all her other children but gave her away, likely because she was a girl. At the time, boys were valued more because they worked the fields and contributed to the family's income, whereas girls were seen as a burden. 2 years ago, I was able to move to Greece as well, since the parents who raised my mom left her a sizable inheritance. It allowed us to live comfortably, and honestly, I preferred the lifestyle here. We live in a beautiful place near the capital, and life is peaceful. Now, here's the issue. My mom's biological mother is now 96 years old and in very poor health. Her biological father passed away decades ago due to political circumstances. Her 2 older brothers, her sister lives abroad, have been taking care of their mother, but they are exhausted. Their wives are complaining, tensions are rising, and at a recent family gathering, they told my mom that she should also help take care of their mother because it's unfair that they are doing it alone. My father was furious when he heard this and told my mother to cut them off entirely. My mom refuses to take care of this woman, she doesn't love her, doesn't feel any emotional connection to her, and can't forgive her for abandoning her. My mom is not close to this woman's and of course she has no legal claim to any inheritance from this family. However, she has truly enjoyed her relationship with her siblings and their children and doesn't want to lose that. She's feeling pressured, though, and she's deeply upset by their demands. When I found out, I was livid. How dare these people ask this of my mother, knowing full well that she was abandoned and that no one even attempted to find her. I feel like they're manipulating her, and she's unable to see how unfair this is. I'm getting married in a month to my fiancé, who is Greek and fully supportive of me, and I am seriously considering uninviting all of them from the wedding. I want to send a clear message that we don't want contact with them anymore. However, my mother is hesitant, she doesn't want to escalate things, even though she's hurting. I feel like she's not as attached to these people as she thinks. She's mourning the idea of the family she never had rather than truly loving these people. And I hate seeing her being taken advantage of. I always idealized Greece and the strong bonds of family, but now I see that's not always the case. I'm so disappointed by all of this. What would you do in this situation? Would you cut them off? Would you disinvite them from the wedding? How can I help my mother navigate this? This is a throwaway account because I'm very active on Reddit and don't want people to know my personal business. Edit, I forgot to mention something I think is important. My mom suggested they find a senior care facility to put her biological mother in. She even offered to pay a quarter of the price. My biological uncles were offended because they said it was disrespectful to their mother to put her in a nursing home. Another Greek thing. Although they are generally financially comfortable, a quarter for a good structure can mean 400 to 500 euros person per month, which, by Greek standards, is enough. I think their idea of help is taking her biological mother home for a few months. Comments. Commenter 1. Your mom doesn't owe her anything, and her siblings are being unfair. Cutting them off completely might be extreme if she still values the relationship, but she should set firm boundaries. For the wedding, if their presence would stress you or your mom out, uninvited them. If you'd rather keep things neutral, that's fine too. Do what feels right for you both. Commenter 2. Likely the sons are tired of taking care of mom, and I'm betting their wives are complaining the most. Wives are, what is this new daughter doing? She should help. Heaven only knows how much help they think your mom should do. It is a slippery slope with no good outcome. Creating distance and firm boundaries between your mom and new siblings is best. Reply. That's my thought exactly. I am having second thoughts, and surely some comments gave me some perspective, but that's my main thought. Update. Hey y'all. First of all, thank you so much for all the responses to my previous post. I decided to share it with my mom and let her read your comments. She was really moved by the similar stories some of you shared. This led to a deep conversation between us. Over the past few years, my mom has learned a lot about her adoption. Unfortunately, my bio grandma was not a good person. The wife of one of my bio uncles, let's call her Maria, sat my mom down a few years ago and told her everything. Turns out, my bio grandma was a very strict and spiteful woman who treated the people who worked for her horribly. She never wanted daughters and even tried to give away her other daughter, but that adoption fell through, so she kept her. My bio aunt went through a really tough time growing up, and that's why she moved abroad. Her brothers never supported her the way they should have, and they even cheated her out of part of her inheritance. Maria is now thinking about leaving her husband since their kids are grown, and she doesn't want to stay married to a man she knows isn't a good person. As for my mom, she never felt a bond with her bio mother. But after hearing everything from Maria, she's decided she doesn't want much contact at all. She knows exactly what kind of people her bio brothers are and never wanted a super close relationship with them. They're not in daily contact anyway, but she does feel attached to her nieces, nephews, and their wives. That's the main reason she hasn't cut ties completely. My mom has decided she will help financially but won't take bio grandma into her home. She's doing it mainly to support her bio sister, who is under pressure from their brothers to care for their mother. My mom has tried to get closer to her bio sister over the years, but her sister has kept her distance. She explained that she has deep trauma from growing up with their mother and wants to maintain some emotional space. But she's still happy they met. This past Christmas, my bio aunt came to Greece and stayed at our house. I wasn't there because I was visiting friends in the Netherlands, but my mom and her sister spent time together, and it brought them closer. My aunt told my mom to cut off her brothers completely and even invited her to move to her country. She has made it clear she wants only a formal relationship with the rest of the family, except for my mom, whom she loves dearly. Side note for the skeptics, my aunt is financially independent and comfortable. She has never asked my mom, or anyone else, for anything. I had no idea about most of this because my mom didn't want me to see my uncles in a bad light. She still thinks she'll keep some minimal relationship with them, but she's especially close with a few of her nieces and nephews and doesn't want to lose that. One of my cousins, Maria's son, even confided in my mom that he wants to cut ties with his father. When my bio uncle asked my mom for help, this cousin, who's only 25, pulled her aside and told her to stay away and not give them anything because they don't deserve it. That really got to me. It showed me that not everyone in this family is selfish or manipulative. I actually have a good relationship with this cousin. He gets along great with my fiancé since they work in the same field. After learning all this, I met up with him last night, and we talked. He has moved out on his own but still keeps some contact with his dad, mainly because he wants to wait until Maria leaves before cutting ties completely. He told me that his father and uncle inherited a lot of wealth and never really had to work. They started some businesses, but when they struggled, they took large sums of money from bio grandma and other relatives. Now they've recovered and live comfortably, but they never paid back what they owe. My cousin is ashamed of his family's actions and doesn't want to be judged for them. He also believes they are trying to financially exploit my mom. Because he cares about her and really respects my parents, he warned them not to get involved. After everything, my parents and I made a decision. My mom will give one lump sum of money for her bio mother's care. Whether they put her in a nursing home or hire a caregiver is their problem. She will also have a final talk with her brothers to make it clear that she is not taking care of their mother because that woman was never a mother to her. When Maria manages to get divorced, which my parents want to support her through, we expect the relationship with the brothers to fall apart. My mom is still sad that she never found the ideal family she imagined, but she feels lucky to have her sister, Maria, and her nephew, whom she truly loves. As for the wedding, we decided to invite them to avoid unnecessary drama. That's the update for now. I truly appreciate all the comments and support. I feel sorry for those who have gone through similar painful experiences, and I hope no one has to go through this again. P.S. Someone in the comments, probably a Greek, suggested that my bio-grandpa might have died for political reasons because he was fighting against the Nazis. Unfortunately, it was the exact opposite. My bio-grandparents were right-wing extremists at a time when the left-right conflict in Greece led to suffering and deaths. A lot of their wealth came from unethical means. Lastly, I feel terrible for ever doubting my grandparents, the ones who actually raised my mom. They were amazing, kind, and compassionate people who helped so many others in the US. Everything they had was earned through hard work. I'm so grateful they adopted my mom, and I wish they had also taken in my aunt. Thank you again, everyone. If I have another update, I'll be back. Comments. Commenter 1. Your mom really shouldn't give anything for the woman who gave her away. If she gives something, it should be small. The uncles benefited from her, they should be the ones responsible. Commenter 2. I'm sorry, a bunch of your mom's bio family are crappy people. On the one hand, growing up knowing that her bio mom didn't want her had to be hard for your mom. But actually being raised by her bio mother sounds like it would have been awful. Sounds like your mom ended up the truth and 2 new relatives who don't suck. That's not, like, flawless victory, but I think it's a win. Flawless victory would be all the dickhead relatives being spontaneously attacked by emus. Stories number 5. Aita, for telling my fiancé to not share a letter my ex-wife sent to me on social media. Ex-wife, 34F, sent an email to me, 34M, pleading me not to marry my fiancé, 27F. My fiancé wants to share the letter on her social media to expose my ex-wife, but I feel she should be the bigger person and ignore her. My ex-wife Lily and I started dating in college and were together for almost 10 years, married for 4. I thought we had a perfect relationship. However, around 6 years ago, Lily sat me down and told me she was feeling unhappy with our marriage and felt like she missed out on a lot of fun things in life because we got married early and spent all our effort on our career and finances. We are both lawyers and spent a lot of time on our law school, bar exam, etc., and got really high-paying jobs. She felt that she never got to live an independent life and find herself. I was heartbroken, as I did not know a life without her. We went through a lot of stress during our marriage and could see her side. We split amicably and got a divorce soon as we did not have any assets or kids to worry about. Everything went okay for the first few months. However, Lily started getting panic attacks and went into depression after she started living alone. I still cared about her and helped her during that time. She was also diagnosed with BPD and has been in therapy since. We stayed friends as the transition was difficult for both of us. However, I tried to move on from her by going on dates. Lily and I stayed good friends for almost 1 year after our divorce. She asked me a few times if we should try to work on our marriage, but I had moved on, told her we are better off as friends than as a couple. I met Mila at our running club, and we really hit it off. Mila was much younger than me, but really matched my energy and we started dating seriously soon after. Mila expressed that she found it uncomfortable that Lily was still such a big part of my life. I also felt I wanted to invest all my energy in relationship with Mila and I told Lily that I would be distancing myself from her. Lily reluctantly agreed, and we stopped texting each other daily, and only met on social occasions such as weddings or parties, as we both share the same group of friends. Lily and Mila never got along, but Mila tolerated Lily for me. Mila and I have been dating for 3 years, and I proposed to her during summer holidays last year when we visited her parents' house. We have been busy planning our wedding and plan to get married in September. Everything was going really well until last week. I received an email from Lily last week pleading me to not marry Mila. It was a long email talking about how we are soulmates and meant to be together. It was extremely delusional, and talked about how I was just punishing her by being in relationship with Mila, and she has learned her lesson, and I should take her back now. It talked about how I would be abandoning her after I promised her that I would take care of her in sickness and health for her entire life, and my new marriage vows will be meaningless, since I promised all those things to her. I immediately told Mila about this and told her that Lily has crossed the line, and I would not only block her everywhere, but make sure I go no contact with her. Mila was very upset too, and started cursing out Lily on how she is planning to ruin her special day. Mila told me that she wants a screenshot of the email and send it to my parents. They, of course, supported Mila and told her that Lily has to be cut off forever from our lives, and I agreed. Mila wants to share the email on her Instagram and Facebook, so that all our friends would also see Lily's behavior, so that they all block her as well, and never invite her to any events. This is where I do not agree with Mila. I know that Lily is not mentally well and has not been depressed again since we announced our engagement. Lily has tried to reach out to me through my friends, but I had not given her a chance to speak to me alone. I feel bad for Lily, and I feel Mila sharing the post would only extend the drama. I also worry that my friends know about Lily's mental condition, and it would feel petty to hurt her, while I am moving on and marrying an amazing person in Mila. I have told Mila about all this, and she feels that I am still trying to protect Lily, when she tried to hurt Mila by sending that email. I am not sure what to do at this point. Am I the to ask Mila to not share the email on social media for everyone to see Lily's private email to me? Is Mila right that Lily deserves all the hurt she would get after she makes the email public? Comments. Commenter 1. What do you mean you don't know what to do? You don't want the letter shared, end of story. You are NTA here. Tell Mila that you do not want it shared and she does not have your consent to share a private correspondence addressed to you. If she won't drop it or shares it anyway, that's a massive red flag. Commenter 2. Yes. I understand her urge, and maybe if everyone involved was mentally well, I wouldn't feel quite so strongly about it. But since he has responded by blocking and going no contact, and the ex has a pretty serious personality disorder, attempting to destroy her social life feels like a dangerous move. I wouldn't want this woman around either. And I'd probably confront her face to face the next time I saw her, because I will not tolerate that kind of disrespect. But to ostracize her from everyone she knows could do serious damage. If she lost her entire social circle, spun out, and harmed herself, I'd feel guilt. Unless she continues on and uses the friend group to try to gain more leverage, it seems better not to share. I usually don't believe in being the bigger person, cause generally it means letting PPL get away with bad shit. But he's cut her off, there's a huge consequence here. Let that be enough. Commenter 3. I am a pretty big advocate for no contact after a breakup for this reason. I think that her reaction to being without you was delayed because she never truly understood what it was like without you in her life. You guys texted every day, especially given her BPD diagnoses. It sounds like a dream to be able to keep you at a distance yet still close enough. Many folks with BPD have disorganized attachment styles like this. Given the circumstances, I do think you did pretty good at abiding by your fiancé's preferences when she did express discomfort, which was valid, at the proximity of Lily. But I don't think your fiancé should be posting this on her social media. How immature and mean. She can show it to whoever she wants directly, I suppose, but it sounds to me like she wants to completely ruin Lily's reputation with people who aren't close enough with her to simply text them out of the blue with the screenshots. I would be embarrassed if my partner was publicly being a mean girl. I'm gonna go with NTA, but by no means is everyone innocent. Reply, yes. Lily and I have had that conversation in the past. She feels that I should have not let her leave me, because she was not in the right state of mind. However, what was I supposed to do? I just did not want to be with someone who did not want to be with me. Update. I had a long discussion with Mila over the weekend. I know it was hard on her too, and I am sure I would also be angry if the shoe was on the other foot. I told her I understand her frustrations and asked her to tell me what is going on in her mind. She told me that it bothered her that I reacted so calmly to this situation, when I should be very angry at Lily and gone nuclear. According to her, Lily has been acting horribly towards her ever since we got engaged and is now actively trying to break us up, and I am treating her with kid gloves because of her mental condition. She said that she feels bad for Lily, but what Lily is asking me was to destroy Mila's life and hoping to take her back. According to her, Lily has a successful career and well enough to function in every other aspect of her life, except when it comes to me. So, even though she has a mental illness, it cannot be as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I thought about it and told Mila that the main reason why I did not react drastically to the email was because after all these years, Lily is nothing more than a stranger to me. I have barely had a meaningful conversation with her for the last 4 years, and never really wanted to learn anything about how she is doing. It's true that we once shared a bond, but I have just moved on and have no time for her drama. My mind is filled with all the happy thoughts about our wedding, and I did not want to give importance to a letter from someone who has no place in my life anymore. I again brought up the topic of Mila posting the letter on Instagram to get back at Lily. I told her that why I feel it is a very bad idea and it would just give Lily fodder to continue the drama. Mila told me that she never really intended to post the letter online, and it was originally my mother's idea as she really hates Lily for what she did to me. She said that she cannot be as patient as me and is really mad at Lily. She cannot shake the feeling that Lily might do something awful during the wedding day and Mila is anxious about it. I told Mila that her well-being is my main concern, and we should talk about the letter to at least some of my close friends so that they can keep an eye on Lily. I called 3 of my friends, who are mutual friends with Lily, the next day and told them about the letter and also our concerns about Lily. All of them confirmed that Lily has not been doing well recently and had many BPD episodes. She had called them for help regarding that, and Lily's mom is currently staying with her to help her through the issues. None of them were surprised, as Lily has been repeating to them that I am only dating Mila to punish her, and she feels she has suffered enough for her mistakes in her past and I should take her back now as we are even. She has also said some scary stuff regarding Mila and how Mila is stealing me from her, and she is in a fight of her life. They also told me that she has been following every post Mila makes on social media using fake accounts. All of them tried to dissuade her from contacting me, but I guess the email was the final straw. I wish they would have told me sooner, but I can understand they wanted to protect Lily's privacy. I asked all my friends to please keep me informed if Lily said or planned something I need to know. I feel I was underreacting to the email, but now I am really worried about it. I talked to Mila, and we decided we should reply to Lily's email and calmly tell her to fuck off. We wrote her an email yesterday and put down our thoughts. I wrote to Lily that I understand that the news about Mila and me was difficult for her. I wrote that my decision to get married to Mila is important to me and we are starting a new chapter in our lives. I have forgiven her for any issues that happened between us in the past, and I hope that she also remembers our time together fondly and moves on to better things in life. I told her that I hope she finds a lot of support in friends, family and therapy, but we will take a break from conversation now and it would be best for both of us to move forward and find our own paths of happiness. I also wrote that this is my last email to her and to not contact us again in future. We are still worried about Lily, and hopefully the email tells her that I am not punishing her, and just want to move on with my life. We are also worried if she might show up to the wedding, as BPD can be unpredictable, and have decided to hire security for the wedding. Currently, Mila seems to be in a good place after we wrote the letter together. I want Mila to understand that she is the most important person to me, and no letters from Lily can shake my feelings for her. I really don't know what the right thing was to do here is. It was not ideal for this to happen so close to the wedding date, but hopefully things calm down and Lily gets support she needs. Again, thanks for all the help from the community, I really appreciate it, and any further advice is also appreciated. Comments. Commenter 1. This is probably not over if she has been saying those types of things to your friends. Definitely hire security at the wedding, making sure everyone has her picture. And I would add additional security measures at home as well. Lily sounds very unstable and will likely spiral further as the wedding approaches. I'm glad Mila is in a better place. It's always helpful when people communicate as adults. Commenter 2. I doubt the drama with Lily is over, but I'm glad that you and Mila seem to have come together and you've reassured her and made sure your focus is on your pending marriage and preserving your relationship. I also think the email to Lily was a smart move. Keep your eyes and ears open for further drama. If you haven't already, hire security for the wedding, just in case. Reply. I was advised that replying to the email would be the right thing to do. I was told to be as calm and as precise as possible to tell Lily that it is over and to not keep any hopes for the future. I was also told to tell her that I am not punishing her. I hope the email helps her get closure and move on with her life. Commenter 3. Please understand, your ex has BPD, which is a personality disorder. This cannot be treated by medication, only years of intense therapy. It isn't going to disappear with a calm email. She will be convinced Mila made you write it. She isn't going to remember your time together fondly and move on. It's not possible for someone with BPD. I'm sorry, my friend. You need to take precautions. Stories number 6. Aita 4, kicking a pregnant woman out of her seat. Okay, so this happened a few hours ago and I've only just calmed down, because I hate conflict. Basically I was doing a long travel day, 5-ish hours, so I booked my train in advance to ensure that I had a reserved seat. When I get on the train, a woman is in my seat, so I politely inform her that I think that's my seat, show her my ticket and ask her to move. She checks her ticket and just says, well, I must have sit in the wrong seat, and puts her head down. I say that it's my seat and could I please sit in it. At this point her partner sitting opposite her starts speaking at me in what I perceive to be an aggressive tone. He suggests I find another seat, which there are none because it's busy, and I say but I booked that seat and there are no other available seats in the carriage. He then raises his voice and says, well, someone else is in our seats and that his missus is pregnant. I say I understand and that I have a heart defect, which I do, and said everyone has their own medical issues and reasons standing for long periods of time might be difficult. And here I could be the asshole. I ask him to not speak to me in an aggressive tone, and that I will make a complaint. He then starts swearing at me and I ask him to stop. Eventually the woman gets up and allows me to sit there, and he continues to berate me, saying he hopes I feel good for myself and that I'm quiet now I have my seat, when really I just stopped engaging as I felt there was no point. One of the men who was sat beside him offers that him and his partner sit in the seats opposite me. It's a table seat, at which point he sits his partner down and then laughs at me and points in my face. Eventually when the ticket inspector comes around they are asked to move to their assigned seats, and she asks if I'm okay as another passenger had made a complaint on my behalf. Even so, was I the asshole? Should I have just left them alone as she was pregnant? And did I in any way escalate the situation? Stories number 7. I, 36M, think I just found out I have a son. How do I approach his mother? 37F. So my world has been turned upside down over the last 24 hours. I've got 2 kids, 8 and 2, or so I thought. My oldest has an assignment for school to write a report on an interesting relative. My family is boring, but I did recall having a great-great-great-granduncle who was a member of Congress. So I thought we'd start there. I logged into Ancestry and had a notification, you and, random woman's name, share DNA. Thought it was probably a distant cousin or something. Clicked it. It said predicted relationship, parent-child. I called my mom to make sure her account didn't get hacked since I knew she had it done. She said she used 23andMe for her testing. So I looked up this woman on Facebook. Came to the realization that this was someone I hooked up with in college. I used Truthfinder to find out more about her. She appears to be married and has a husband, an older kid, and 2 younger kids. They look like the typical suburban family. The older kid looks like as awkward as I did as a teenager. Spitting image. I'm guessing she did a test for him using her name. I have a flood of emotions right now, anger being the first. If my math is right, he's around 18, don't remember the exact timing, and I've missed out on basically his entire childhood. I was absolutely in no place to raise a kid at that time in my life and probably wouldn't have ended up being able to go to med school at the same time. I never got the choice to know, and that's what upsets me more. I know my family would have helped me out. I haven't told anyone this, not even my spouse. I'm wrestling with guilt. I really want to reach out. I don't want to throw turmoil into a family, but I also feel like I shouldn't have to miss out on more of his life. He has an Instagram account, but it's private, and reaching out straight to him would be overwhelming, not to mention creepy. Where do I start? Do I call Ancestry? Reach out to her directly? Do I get a lawyer? I don't even know how that works because I live abroad now. Thanks in advance. Consensus. Comments: tell him to tell his partner and figure it out from there. Notable comment. I'm in my 40s and I did Ancestry to find out who my father was, and I have some advice for you. 1. Talk to your wife first and make sure she is 100% a part of your plan and feels like she has a part of it too. She is going to be a huge support system for you. 2. Reach out to the bio mom. The reason she took the test is likely because she didn't know who the father was and there were several options. That was the situation in my case for my mother, and she was ashamed. 3. If the mother refuses contact with you and you still want contact with him, I would wait until he is of age and then reach out to him yourself. The pieces of my life came together when I met my biological father and his family. I finally looked like someone and felt like I belonged somewhere. That may not be his case, but you don't know what's going on. It sounds dramatic, but I truly felt like a piece of a missing puzzle came together. For the reason I mention your wife is because she has a huge part in this. My biological father's wife has been so amazing and welcoming to me. If she hadn't been, it would have been a totally different scenario. She had the chance to make me feel welcome in their home or not, and it was already a very nerve-wracking situation meeting them. 5. Expect there to be awkwardness. I am an adult forming adult relationships with a man who wants to take on a father role with me, and a brother and sister who are very close with each other that have 40 years of history with one another. When we are all together, I get quiet and it's hard for me because the children he raised feel very comfortable around him, understandably so, and I feel a little bit like a third wheel. These aren't things I say, I'm just saying that at times it can feel a little bit awkward for me, but my bio dad never makes me feel bad if he senses me pulling away. He is very patient. Update. Due to popular demand, the day after my original post, I told my spouse and my parents. Both supportive of however I wanted to go about this. I went ahead and decided to contact my son's mother. I didn't want to give her the excuse that I was anything but proactive. When I went to send a message directly on Ancestry, I could no longer find the match. She had blocked me. My sister, who also used Ancestry but hadn't opened the app in ages, could still see the relation from hers. I decided to have my sister contact her, thinking it may be easier anyway coming from a woman and someone slightly less emotionally involved. Sister was blocked immediately, with no response. We both tried reaching out on Facebook. Blocked and blocked. My mom tried reaching out blocked, so I wrote a brief message to my son and sent it to his Instagram. Without going into specifics, simply telling him that I think we share a connection, that I knew his mother when we were in college in 2006, and leaving the door open from there. Basically telling him I was likely his father without blatantly saying it. Let him put the pieces together in a way that made sense for him. Within a few hours, I received a message back. He knew exactly what I meant. He said that his mom told him his biological father was her high school sweetheart and was killed by a drunk driver while she was pregnant. He didn't know his mom had gone to college. He told me he had started questioning the story because she didn't know any of his relatives and only had one pic of his dad, and had no pics of her with this guy. He described this as a big question mark in my life, and that he had been wanting answers to for a while. He did provide the DNA for the ancestry test. His mom told him it was to help her locate the fictional father's family so they could come to his graduation party. Still, he said that he wanted to be 100% sure that I was who I said I was. So on the 6th, I drove down 5 hours to meet him at a Starbucks. I brought a paternity test. We did the samples and put it in the mail. The results came back yesterday as a match. I knew from the moment I saw him that he's my kid. A parent knows. On the photos I saw of him, he looked like me as a teenager. But when I saw him in person, I could see the resemblance to my dad as a young man. His voice even sounded like mine. It was tough holding myself together. It was the same flood of emotion I had when I saw my kids for the first time when they were born, a unique cocktail of emotions most parents know. Except now it's happening in a Starbucks, and the kid is a teenager who's 6 feet 1 inch, same height as me too. As for his mother's husband, my son told me he's never had a close relationship with him, especially after his twin brothers were born. They're 7. His mom is good to him and clearly did well raising him. He said he's always looked to his grandpa as his father figure, as he lived with his mom and her parents for the first several years of his life. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his life yet, but he's an honors student, on the swim team, and is hoping to get a scholarship for swimming. He has a girlfriend and is going to prom this spring. I'm so incredibly proud of how maturely he's handled all of this. We're keeping in contact on Instagram and agreed to meet this summer so he can meet the rest of the family, particularly my parents. He's especially excited to meet my 2-year-old daughter. He says he always wanted a little sister. I also encouraged him to go easy on his mom when the time comes to tell her because we were both so young when all this happened, and I'm sure she did the best she could do at the time, as misguided as it may have been. Sometimes adults tell lies to make things easier for kids to accept, and we can suddenly find ourselves caught up in those lies. It doesn't mean she wanted to lie to him, so all in all, a mixed ending. Would I have liked for his mom to have complied? Yes. It would have made things a hell of a lot easier. But I won't hold a grudge against his mom because my #1 priority is my son's well-being and he doesn't need chaos. I hope when she's finally told that she can come to terms with it, because they both deserve peace and he shouldn't have an unspoken rift between his parents. I think she will. She doesn't have much of a choice at this point. I hope now she understands that now that he's grown, I'm not trying to take him away from her. In some ways it's a blessing I didn't find out until now. Because had I found out sooner, lawyers and judges would have been involved and I don't think that would have been good for him. At least that's what I tell myself when I get upset. And I'm glad both of us have gotten some closure here, particularly him, as he's been dealing with this a lot longer than I have. Stories number 8. My 26F, BF, 28M, slammed on the brakes so hard that I was thrown into the locked seatbelt in response to me commenting on his driving. How to address. My 26F, BF, 28M, of 3.5 years and I were driving down a main road towards a red light. He was accelerating into the red light, so I said, "Why are you accelerating? It's red." In response to this comment, he slammed on the brakes so hard that the car screeched and I was thrown forward. The locked seatbelt caught me. I was not injured by this, but it did scare me. Afterwards, when I spoke to him about it, he said I made him really mad with my driving comment, especially since I had told him not to comment on my own driving the day before, and that we should agree not to comment on each other's driving. I don't think that's totally unreasonable, but I also don't think that his act of slamming on the brakes was appropriate. I am concerned that he thinks it was appropriate. How to address this with him. TLDR, I commented on my boyfriend's driving and, in response, he slammed on the brakes so hard that I was thrown forward into the locked seatbelt. How to address this with him. Edit, thanks to everyone for your comments. I don't think I can respond to all at this stage, but I'll try and answer some of the questions here. The car is my car, I own it but let him drive it. I usually push back on letting drive it at all when I am with him because I think he doesn't treat the car as well as I would like. The comments from him on my driving are about me driving too slowly, hesitating. I was in a scary car accident a few years ago and I've been a very nervous and careful driver since then. I had asked him to stop commenting on my driving because I felt like he was nagging me all day about it. The specific instance where I said to stop was because I was hesitating at a traffic circle and was giving too much space for people to go through ahead of me. The comment that caused him to hit the brakes was my first comment of the car ride. We had literally just gotten in the car and it was the first light. Still, we had had some tension arguments that week leading up to it about other things and I think he was a little annoyed with me already when we got in the car. I won't pretend that I have not made him mad and could have tried harder to avoid that, but I felt that the reaction in slamming the brakes was very extreme. I hear what you all are saying. This confirms what I think I already knew the brake slamming was about. It's hard to imagine a situation where that can be seen as reasonable or safe. He has never done anything else physical with me aside from this car incident, though he does have an explosive temper. I've seen him get physical with other things. He's punched a hole in our wall once over a video game and he smacks cars when we are out running and he sees cars not stop properly at stoplights. I would say he hasn't lost his temper with me much, but when he has I found a bit freaky because he adopts a really intense, teeth clenched, fists clenched sort of thing. He's slammed a fist on the table a few times. Again, never has actually done anything physical. Also, to clarify, he was not slamming on the brakes because of the red light, we were still 50-ish feet from the line where you stop for the light. It was definitely in response to my comment, and he said it was afterwards when he explained that he slammed on the brakes because he was mad. I will look into the resources everyone sent and think about this. I am feeling like I need to end it, particularly after reading what everyone has said. Thank you, I appreciate all your thoughts and advice. Edit 2, for the people commenting with generalized, typical women, grievances. It is misogynistic to make generalizations about all women based on one woman's experience. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I hope you've got your important documents with you. Everything else may need to be written off as a loss. At the very least, see if you can get your friends to accompany you to collect the rest of your stuff, or even handle the handoff for you, or consider calling the non-emergency police hotline to see if someone can come with you. Glad you're out, though now stay that way. Reply, thank you. I did grab my documents. I do hope things will be okay when I go back, but better to be safe for sure. Edit, go back to sort out our shared things, *I will reach out to friends to come with me. Were there other issues during the 3.5 years with her boyfriend? Reply, of course there were other issues. The biggest one was that he wouldn't take my concerns seriously when I tried to address relationship issues with him. You'll see in my first post, there have been a few different anger issue things over the past 1 to 2 years. Each time, he brushed my concerns under the rug. It was the brake slamming incident plus laughing at me when I tried to address my concerns about it with him that has been the final straw. OOP provided more examples about her BF's behaviors. Reply, did you actually read the original post? The braking thing was one example of angry behavior, but there were multiple things. It was not an isolated incident, but an example of one. And the biggest issue is his inability to take my concerns seriously. We have had dozens of conversations over the years where I've brought a concern to him and had him dismiss my concerns, culminating in this instance, where I told him I was concerned by the behavior and he laughed at me and was utterly disdainful at the idea that he had some angry tendencies. I'm not sure how I can be with someone who explodes with anger unpredictably and then blows me off completely if I express a very legitimate concern about that behavior. And he has done this with other concerns, as well. I'm not sure how to have constructive communication with someone who dismisses me so completely. By the way, it's not just Reddit, my friends and family agree that it's not acceptable. What do you suggest? What can I do? It's pretty hard to distill all the problems and context of an entire relationship in one Reddit post. He has a repeated pattern of downplaying things that concern me, minimizing, and even blaming me when I raise concerns. The temper issue is one of my concerns. I've also tried to talk to him about other issues, like him being condescending, correcting me a lot, acting annoyed with me, etc., and received similar responses. Sometimes he assures me that he will change and work on this stuff, but he never does. He had declined any kind of therapy before this breakup conversation. This has been over a pattern of years. It's hard to trust him that any change is possible, because he wasn't able to make any changes previously. And I don't want the only way to motivate change to be to actually tell him I want to break up. Like, why isn't it enough for me to say, I can't be happy in this relationship if we don't figure this out, which I have said on a few occasions. I hear you, and some people are taking it to an extreme. Not everything is pathological, for sure. But it does sound like the car thing is common in abusive relationships and is to be taken seriously, and I think laughing at me when I bring it up and telling me that I am blowing it out of proportion probably would qualify as gaslighting. I don't think he's a narcissist. I think he is probably deeply uncomfortable addressing his emotions and isn't able to deal with his feelings well. The result is that he so badly doesn't want to reflect on anything that he instead chooses to push me away. Happening occasionally, it's human. Happening frequently for a period of a few years, not healthy for a relationship, at least not for me. I can't just sweep everything under the rug and pretend it's all fine all the time. I worry that even if he does go to therapy, which he's been very resistant to before this, it could be years before he's able to process his feelings well, and that's a gamble. And it's risking the fact that his aggressive behavior could escalate during that time. I am truly very concerned that he chose to punish me by scaring the shit out of me in my own dang car, just for saying something that annoyed him. I don't care, it's so hard to know what's right. Hence the Reddit post hoping for a magical solution. Commenter 2, dating is an audition for the rest of your life, you're not locked in here. He proved that his immediate and thoughtless reaction when he's angry with you is to punish you, and who cares if you get hurt. Take this information and use it wisely. Update. Thank you to everyone who commented. It was a little rough being told by literally hundreds of people how bad of a situation this was. I think it was the wake-up call I needed, though. I was having a really hard time seeing the situation clearly. I knew his behavior was wrong, but I didn't have the language for what I was experiencing and didn't know what to do. Well, since this post, I filled in some friends and relatives on the situation. Everyone agreed that his behavior was completely unacceptable. Everyone said he either needed some serious therapy in anger management, or we needed to break up. Well, on Friday, I tried to ask him about the anger issues to see if he may be willing to seek help for it. He was extremely dismissive of it all, told me I was blowing things out of proportion, and even laughed at me when I suggested his aggression was a little scary. That was the last straw for me. Last night, I told him I thought we should break up. What followed was an agonizing and painful 2 hours of crying and holding each other. He pleaded with me to stay, promised that he would be better for me, asked to do therapy, basically, everything I had been wanting to hear from him for months, if not years. I couldn't trust it, though. I ended up taking my dog and going to a hotel, where I'll be for a few days while we think about logistics of breaking up. It has been so incredibly hard, but I am feeling like I made the right decision. Several people expressed concern for me in my original post, so I wanted to update you all and let you know that I am okay and that I left. I'm not able to completely go no contact currently because of our shared living situation and dog, but I am taking steps to break away. Thank you again to everyone for the feedback and affirmation. TLDR, I left. Top comments. OOP shares her thoughts on if her ex could change his behaviors. Reply, I think he could potentially change, but I don't think our relationship is good for either of us at this point. It's causing me a lot of stress and sadness, and I worry I am enabling him to not address his issues. Any change would take a very long time and I'm not certain it's possible. It is horrible to be ending things after so much time together, and I love him. I don't think he's evil or terrible like a lot of people have said, but the reality is that he has problems processing his emotions and has brushed aside many attempts by me to help him address these issues. It's so hard. Commenter 1, he was only willing to change after you broke up with him. If you had stayed he would have been a little bit better for a little while and then gone back to the way he was. You made the right choice. Commenter 2, she literally asked him without any strings attached and he laughed at her. That was his authentic reaction, and if he had put in 1 to 2 months of effort if she stayed, he would have reverted back to his authentic self. If someone doesn't want to change, they won't. Commenter 3, I'm proud of you for choosing to put your safety and your dog's safety first. May the next step of your journey be as pleasant and healing as possible. Commenter 4, congratulations. This decision may have saved your life, your mental well-being, and/or your financial well-being. Relationships with men with anger issues often devolve into domestic violence. And divorces are expensive. So best to dodge the bullet as early as you can. Editor's note, marking this concluded as OOP has now deleted the account and she has ended the relationship. We won't know any further updates. Stories number 9. I got revenge on my stepdad for selling my dead grandmother's jade pendant necklace. I 23F lost my grandma due to COVID complications in January of 2022. I had bought my grandma a jade necklace pendant and bought myself a rose quartz pendant. Her necklace costed $200, this was because it was wrapped in real gold and it was a huge piece of jade. My mother's husband, my stepdad, treated my grandmother and I horribly. He abused me for years and treated my grandma like a slave. My grandma raised all of my siblings and I. My youngest half-brother on my mom's side is my stepdad's son. Not even 24 hours after her death, my mom, narcissistic mother, told me she would go through her room at the end of the week. Not even 24 hours later. Her room was cleared, and I noticed a fat wad of cash in my stepfather's hand. I asked my stepdad if I could have my grandma's jade pendant back. It was very important to me because it was hers and she wore it all the time. My stepdad told me that he sold it because everything in her room was his now. I was infuriated. I never felt that kind of rage before. The following day I plotted my revenge. While my mother and husband were gone I got busy. For context, my mother and her husband depended on me a lot while living with them. I took his brand new laptop, that he bought from selling my dead grandma's jade pendant, and filled the bathtub up with water. I dropped it in the water and left it there for a good 10 minutes. I took his laptop charger and cut a small hole that he couldn't see in it. I also made sure to dry the laptop off really well, and put everything back where it belonged. I went even further. I took everything I bought in that kitchen and donated it to the people who really needed it. The air fryer I bought. Donated. The microwave I bought. Donated. The plates, bowls and cups. Donated. The pantry cabinet I bought. Donated. I took it up a notch. I took all the toiletries I bought with my money out of the bathroom. I locked all of them in a lockbox. You sell my dead grandma's pendant? No more laptop. No more of anything I bought. The icing on the cake, I had proof of purchase of my dead grandmother's pendant. I made his workplace aware that he is a thief. Edit. I moved out in May of 2022. I've been in no contact with both of them for a long time. Stories number 10. Aita for refusing to be a prisoner to motherhood after my divorce. I, 32F, recently separated from my ex-husband, 33M, after years of feeling like I was disappearing. I was a wife. I was a mom. But me? I didn't exist anymore. My entire life revolved around my marriage and our 3 kids, 13, 5, and almost 2. I love my children more than anything, and I have them the majority of the time. When they're with me, I give them everything: homework, bedtime stories, family outings. And for the first time in years, I actually feel present instead of trapped in a dark hole of exhaustion and self-hate. But on the rare days or week they're with their dad, I finally have a moment to breathe. I've been using that time to do things I never got to do when I was married. Hiking in the mountains, camping under the stars. Going to concerts. Making friends, playing my games and watching my movies. Figuring out who I am outside of just mom. And now my ex is losing his mind over it. He says I'm abandoning our kids and being selfish. He's running around telling mutual friends and family that I care more about having an adventure than being a mother. Apparently, because I go on overnight camping trips, I'm irresponsible. What does he expect me to do? Sit in an empty house, staring at the walls, waiting for my kids to come back? For context, during our marriage, he had plenty of hobbies. Late night gaming, concerts, nights out with friends, and even a planned Vegas trip with his coworkers. He never once questioned whether he was abandoning his family. But now that I'm doing something for myself, suddenly I'm the villain. I feel like I'm being a good mom by taking care of my mental health and showing my kids that life doesn't end when things get hard, but his words are starting to get to me. So Aita for finally choosing me for once. Stories number 11. Aita for kicking my brother's GF out my flat. My brother's GF, 20, comes to me and my brother's flat at night, 9 p.m., looking for food. I'm helping her cook with my ingredients using my gas and she's wasting gas, and when I tell her to turn the gas off she gets pissed, shouts at me and tries to kick me and push me out the kitchen. Keep in mind she never does the dishes after cooking in my flat too. I told her to leave and she leave voluntarily. Aita. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Does your brother know about this stuff? He needs to. And you need to talk about her not being there unless he is there. She's his problem. Reply. He sticks up for her, of course, asking why I was shouting at her when she shouted first. Also says that I don't own the place when I pay the bills which he owes me for the past 4 to 5 months. They also rotate between both of them staying at mine's or her place. Commenter 2. Tell your brother that you can't have his girlfriend over anymore. You're tired of feeding her and she doesn't clean up after herself. NTA. Reply. Tried that before but my brother and my mum said I have no right to do that. Commenter 3. WTF does your mom have to do with it if your brother and you are renting a flat? My advice? Save up and get a new roommate, and make sure you both agree on house rules before you move in. Until then, stop being nice to her. Never let her in. Your brother can do that. If she eats your groceries, bill your brother for everything you paid for that she eats. Reply. My mum pays the rent. My brother's GF also moving in next month cause her old flat raised its prices. Mind this is a 2-person flat which is already occupied by me and my brother. Additional information from OOP on their brother's GF. Reply. My brother messaged me, she couldn't afford to go out to eat or anything. She has to pay her own rent and the reason she's moving in is because she can't afford to pay her rent in her current place anymore. Do you think she wants to stay with us if it was up to her? OFC not. Her rent's being increased and she literally is living from paycheck to paycheck. To which I responded with, not my problem. You don't own the fucking flat. If you want there to be rules you need to be fucking civil and you were not civil. Update. Majority have said I'm NTA even so I've apologized to her first and explained what happened but she's told me to leave her alone. How immature. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Can see in the comments that you've been paying all the bills for 4 to 5 months and that she's planning on moving in next month. Her disrespect is only going to get worse. They've been leeching off of you, is there any way you could move out? If not, keep your bills and groceries separate and don't let them mooch of you. Don't pay for them to disrespect you. And if she lays her hands on you again, call the cops. Reply. I could technically move back home instead of staying at uni but has complications as it's harder to travel for classes and it also means giving up and letting her win and take over the flat. Final update. My mother messaged my brother about the situation. My brother keeps making excuses how they don't have time to clean up or cook yet I'm here doing it just fine. My brother called my mother a bad mum. My mother said she doesn't get hurt by him anymore as she's stopped caring and given up as he's disappointed her so many times. Keep in mind she's paid all his rent and gave him a lot of money over the years when he ran out. She then threatened my brother and his GF's residency at the flat and they both got scared as they're both basically negotiating with their life while I've got nothing to lose. My mother said she would never support them ever. She gave them 3 options. She's not allowed to move in with me and my brother. We set rules and boundaries that everyone has to follow in the flat and allow her to move in. She kicks both my brother and his GF out the flat and continues to pay for my rent alone. My brother's GF apologized and wished to talk things out soon. Probably out of fear of being homeless. Yeah, so basically my mother came in clutch and knocked some sense into the both of them. I love my mom. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. The GF was a yappy dog trying to bite the hand that feeds. And just saw your mother rolling up a shirt sleeve while taking test swings with a rolled up newspaper. Commenter 2. Girl, your mom is a queen. Seriously, she handled that situation perfectly. Good for her for setting boundaries and not letting them walk all over her. I'm curious what they chose hopefully, option 2 with strict rules, or even option 3. Let's hope this teaches them some responsibility. It's great you have such a supportive and strong mom. Reply, thanks. She's the pillar in my life, laughing face. Commenter 3, if it were me, I'd go straight to option 3. You gave him plenty of options to rectify the problem with his GF and he still tried to steamroll you into allowing her to move in with you and refusing to insist she follow basic boundaries within your home. And that was even before she was moved in, and you know very well that they'll promise to toe the line, and might actually fly straight for a bit. But once they get comfy together, you can pretty much bet that they'll go back to their old ways. Reply, that is fair. It's only when we pushed his back against the wall he's willing to negotiate. I'll allow them to move in as it's only temporary since they move out in summer. I can cope with it for these coming months. After that I'm done with living with them. Commenter 4, how sure are you that they will move out in the summer? Plans fall through. Don't let her move in, you may be setting yourself up for a world of trouble. Reply, they're forced to move out by my mother when my brother graduates this year. Commenter 5, your mom didn't really come in clutch. She's still allowing 2 freeloading adults to live with her by making a small concession that they will definitely not keep your brother 1 OP. Reply, it's not over yet, my landlord can help. It gets worse. Update. My brother keeps saying that his GF is moving in and that my mum can't stop it as she can legally move in as there is not contract on the flat. Also saying I'll never find a GF if I always go to my mother for help and like no one will ever date me if I pick my mother over my GF. He also said, no girl likes a mama's boy, but I feel like a man who respects his mother is a man who can respect his girlfriend. He also threatened to tell everyone in our volleyball club, me, my brother and his GF are part of the club, that me and my mother made his GF homeless, if that happens, over some gas. It's not about the gas, it's about her disrespect, attitude and lifestyle which is the issue. Her living situation isn't me or my mother's problem. He also said my mother isn't God and cannot dictate who moves in the flat. I know who can though, my auntie who is the landlord. This is getting interesting. I'll keep you all updated as soon as I get more info. The photos attached is my brother's room which he shares with his GF sometimes. Currently it's the cleanest it's been all year. It may not seem bad but me and my brother were raised in a very clean environment. Top comments. Commenter 1, your brother sounds about as trashy as his girlfriend's habits. Commenter 2, why are you ignoring attempted assault, for her? She tried to kick you. Like a child throwing a tantrum. Yes, but she's a grown-ass adult. She can't just say sorry and get away with no actual consequences. If I were you or your mother or whoever is in charge of who is allowed to live there, the second she tried to kick me she was done for. No going back. Commenter 3, since your auntie is the landlord it's time to call her. Stories number 13. My boss just haha reacted my message asking for a raise. I posted here a while ago asking if having 13K as a salary as a software developer was enough. Editor's note, this is in the Philippines, and wild_butterscotch 977 said this is equivalent to 224 American dollars. I'm a graduating student, and this company hired me after my internship. When I accepted the role, I expected to do the same tasks I did during my internship, so I thought the pay was fair. But then they gave me more complex tasks, like creating a payroll system, which meant studying thousands of lines of code, hundreds of tables, and the whole process from scratch. Mind you, it's just me and my senior in the team. I took it as a challenge and slowly learned to enjoy it, but now I feel like the minimum isn't enough because I'm handling so many projects, and my tasks have leveled up a lot. Today, I finally got the guts to message my boss to ask if a raise was possible. I was polite, just asking if it could be considered and explaining why I felt I deserved it. She just haha reacted and even sent a smiling face with heart eyes emoji. I don't know if it was sarcastic, but I was just asking a simple yes or no question. I didn't even mention a specific amount. Now I feel like I'm being treated like shit. As much as I want to leave immediately, I still need the money. But this really motivated me to start looking for another job as soon as possible. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, start applying now for your backups. If you get accepted or have multiple offers, then show it to her, see if she can match that. Otherwise, you're ready to leave and start a new chapter since you have a standing offer or multiple offers now. Make sure you have the leverage. Reply, that was actually my initial plan to get an offer first before asking for a raise since I still enjoy the work and the setup I have here. But I just wanted to take a shot tonight. I guess her response was a sign for me to walk away once I find a backup. Kinda sad because I really love my work here despite the salary. Thank you for the response, smiley face. Commenter, your boss is deflecting the conversation at hand. 13K as you're already aware is too low, especially as starting salary. Immediately drop your job as your priority in life and prioritize getting a job that knows your worth. Reply, I didn't see it that way, but that makes sense. And yeah, I know it's way too low haha. I can't leave immediately since I'm still studying and funding myself, but I'm already applying for other jobs now. I'm just looking for a company that accepts graduating students. Thank you. Update post. Thank you for the advice and for giving me a reality check. Here's an update on my story. I waited 2 days for a proper response, but I guess that was her response. Regardless, I had already planned to resign and was just looking for another job to transition into. Just a day after posting this, I was able to quickly land an international client from OLJ who is paying me 4 times my monthly salary. The task seems easier than my usual work, at least in theory, but I still have some concerns since the tools are new to me and different from what I am used to. However, I believe we grow the most from challenges that scare us, and stepping out of our comfort zone is where real learning happens. So thanks for motivating me to apply haha. As soon as I secured the deal, I immediately submitted my resignation. My boss later replied, apologizing for the late response and saying she was actually considering my request. She could have mentioned that when I first asked instead of just reacting with a haha and an emoji though lol. She then asked if I could at least work reduced hours as many of their clients had started with me. That made me smile because suddenly she saw my worth. Yet, when I initially asked for a raise, it seemed like I was not even worth a simple reply, not even a 2 or 3 letter response like yes or no. Unfortunately, I did not do what some of you suggested, haha reacting to her message or replying with just an emoji instead. I told her that I had already made up my mind and kept it polite because I did not want to burn any bridges, as I still appreciate the experience I gained from the company. Thank you all for helping me realize my worth. I have learned my lesson and will never go through that again. Some of OOP's comments. Could you keep your first job and just do it online? Nah, my new job is 4 days a week, 12 hours a day, so I do not think I can fit it in. If I need more money, my client told me to just ask him, and he will give me more work instead of looking for another job haha. Besides, I already feel at peace leaving my previous company, so I do not really see the need to go back. Commenter, happy for you, OP. And good decision to not do the haha react and emoji. Your boss already did an unprofessional thing, so why step down to her level, right? Reply, exactly. Thank you. Stories number 13. Heart was drawn inside Fiancé's 27M car window and I, 25F, questioned him about it. Fiancé went out with his friends the other night and didn't get home till 4 in the morning. I was upset but he apologized and we moved forward. Today, he takes me out to dinner and while in his car I notice there's a heart drawn on the inside of his front windshield. I ask him who's been in his car. At first he says no one and that he thought I drew that in the car. I'm 7 months pregnant and wouldn't lean forward to reach his front windshield to draw a ING heart. Then he proceeds to say him and his friend drove these two girls to their car after they left the bar and the girl must have drawn the heart, but all he did was take them to their car. Does this not sound like BS? Why are women in your car? And if you were simply dropping them off, why is your homeboy in the back with the other girl? I had to get space from him so that I don't spaz out. Advice anyone? Stories number 14. I think my BF is cheating on me with our friend. My BF and I have a mutual friend from school who basically reintroduced us after several years. Our friend obviously has a crush on my BF, and according to my BF, she told him she'd like to have sex with him sometime. Fast forward, BF and I started dating. BF told my friend, she lashed out and said she was gonna keep her distance from us now. Later on, BF called me and told me to be checking in on her often because she's lonely. They've been in contact and we all send each other streaks on Snapchat. But this girl shares really provocative stuff with us, and when I got my BF's phone, I saw he's been saving a bunch of them. Today is Val's Day. BF suddenly said he's visiting our hometown after work because his dad called for him. Mind you, this is where BF, friend, and I lived when we're schooling together. BF and I are living elsewhere now, but friend is in this same town. For over 2 hours now, I call BF and it goes straight to voicemail. One time he picked the call and suddenly turned it off and that's been it. I thought of calling our friend, and hers was also going straight to voicemail. He asked me to be his Val last night over phone, got me nothing for Vals, and I have a strong intuition that he's somewhere with another girl, if not our friend. Am I overreacting? Edit 1, thank you for the responses. I seriously thought I was overthinking it, but turns out it's a glaring sign. I'll call him first thing in the morning and ask about his whereabouts. He could still lie, but I just hope I keep my cool throughout. If you have any ideas on how to confront him about it, do let me know, but I'll update the post afterwards. Update: it's been a hell of a weekend. I couldn't sleep, and was itching to find out what truly happened with my boyfriend on Valentine's night. First thing Saturday morning, I called my BF and he said he was sleeping, that's why he couldn't pick my calls. When I mentioned the time where he actually picked up and immediately turned it off, he was in total denial and said he didn't remember any such thing. He then told me he could share his live location with me from now on, which I declined cause it was painting me as this crazy, jealous GF. I got off the call and dug up old texts from my phone, and I found our friend's mother's contact there. I called her, asking to check in on my friend. She said my friend had left home the night before to an all-night party with her friends. But she said one of my male friends came to pick her up. It was my boyfriend. I ended the call and checked my Snapchat to check if my BF had come online so we could talk, and I saw that our friend had updated her private story. I clicked it, and in the video, she was having pillow talk with a guy I sharply recognize as my BF. After seeing and hearing all this, I had my answer. I was right. I spent the rest of the day indoors rethinking the whole relationship. They were in contact before I returned to the picture. Why drag me into this? Why get me involved and then pull this shtick? A part of me is glad this happened earlier, cause he was below my standards, but I loved him. Today, I went to visit my cousin, and she took me to the beach. So that is my update. They're both blocked, and I'll be taking a break to focus on my job and myself. Thank you all for the support and DMS giving me suggestions. Stories number 15. To fool by finding out I've been accidentally dating and fucking my half-sister, after taking a 23andMe DNA test. My girlfriend, I'll refer to her as Sarah, and I have been dating for a little over than a year and our relationship has been going very well. We both happen to come from the same town and met each other in college after being introduced by a mutual friend of ours. Here's where the foo begins to unravel. Last year for Christmas, Sarah decided to come over and stay with me at my apartment for the holidays. I also had decided not to go home for the holidays either. Plus, all my other roommates were back home visiting family, so we had the whole place to ourselves. It was perfect. Christmas Day rolls around, and Sarah had bought the both of us 23andMe DNA kits. The thing is that we were both conceived by in vitro fertilization via sperm donors. Both of our fathers were infertile, so our parents had no choice. Deep down, the both of us were hoping to find our biological fathers through the service. Fast forward less than a month later to today, and both of our results are in. Sarah comes over to spend the weekend and we go through our results together on our laptops. We compare our ancestry and health reports and nothing seems off. I even found out I'm 2% Native American. All was well until we arrived at the DNA relatives section. Sarah tightly holds my hand and says, "I hope we both find our fathers." Then I open mine up. At the top of my screen, I see Sarah's name, 27% DNA shared half-sister. Sarah starts hysterically laughing and tells me to stop joking. I don't react to anything she says, and just stare at my screen in disbelief. I then abruptly grab her laptop and open up her DNA relatives section. We see the same thing, my name at the top. 27% DNA shared, half-brother. At this moment my brain just completely short-circuits. I've been having sex with my half-sister, holy fucking shit. My mind starts going at 100 miles per hour and I began hyperventilating, going into a state of shock. I can't even remember what Sarah was doing at this time. It's pretty self-explanatory by now, but for those of you who don't understand how we could be related, it turns out our moms were probably both fertilized by the same sperm sample. What are the fucking odds, right? The fact that we're from the same town certainly increased the odds, but still, 6 hours later, just typing this entire post makes my body shiver. There are no words I have to express what my mental state is now. To put it in simple words, I feel traumatized. Part of me still won't stop thinking about how much I love Sarah, and then I realize our entire relationship was incest. I honestly feel disgusted standing in my own skin. I've even been contemplating suicide. Sarah and I haven't talked at all since going into shock. Right as I'm finishing up this post, Sarah has grabbed her stuff and left my apartment a few moments ago. I'm probably not going to respond to any of your questions for now, and I honestly want to be left alone in the corner of my room. I really just needed a place to vent all this. TLDR. Former GF and I are both sperm donor babies and come from the same town. We take a 23andMe DNA test and find out we're each other's half-sibling. Meaning I've been having sex with my sister for over a year. Turns out we both were conceived from the same sperm sample, go figure. I do not give permission for my post to be used in the making of any movie, story, book, etc. Edit, my mates just came home and are giving me support. Edit 2, RIP inbox, thank you all so much for the support. I just logged back in and didn't really expect this post to blow up. Last night was rough. Sarah's friend roommate called letting me know Sarah was home. As of now, Sarah and I still haven't talked. But after a night of thinking, I believe I've come to terms with what we've discovered. For those of you who still think this is fake, I honestly wish it was. Here's a screenshot showing our shared DNA, https, i.imager.com z0zm911.png. I think the best way for Sarah and I to heal is to go back home, our town, and see how this all began with our families. Only then will we be able to accept the reality. I'll post more updates as things develop. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. How small is your town? The odds of a couple both having parents with fertility problems, who went to the same sperm bank, and used the same sperm sample is so unbelievably small, holy shit. Reply. Our town has a population of 40k, and both of our parents had to go to a clinic one state over. I still can't contemplate the odds of this happening. Commenter 2. I'm a moderator of our 23andMe, and you guys would have no idea how common these types of events are. Not this type specifically, this one is a first, but generally non-paternity events and other family scandals are the most common. I swear, we can't go a weekday without having at least 4 posts about people finding out their fathers aren't their bio dads or some other family drama. As for OP, I'm so sorry you have to go through this, and this is painful to go through. I would recommend you rest until you're feeling well enough to talk to anyone. Please don't hurt yourself, and please call the suicide hotline if you ever are considering suicide. Don't hesitate to reach out for help and try to find support groups for these types of things. If at any time you feel like your mental state is rapidly deteriorating, don't wait, get help. Talk to someone, friends, family, etc. Reply. Thank you for the advice and support. Update. First things first, just wow. I can't thank you all enough for the support through the kind comments and messages. I wish I could reply to all of them, but there are just too many. I'll answer some common questions I received towards the end of the post, but I'll first start with where we left off. After a long dreadful night full of surprises, I woke up the next morning questioning everything. I called bullshit on the test and immediately called Sarah. She picks up telling me she's already booked an appointment with a genetic counselor. Good, we're both on the same page. The next day, we meet with the genetic counselor specifying in patients who take tests with commercial companies. TLDR of what she said was, while the ancestry reports can be interpreted with a degree of skepticism, DNA matches are determined directly through the raw DNA data, meaning the connection is either there or it isn't. We asked if there was a possibility that we contaminated each other's samples. She said that our samples would have been flagged by the system. Apparently that's easy to spot. Even if our contaminated samples magically made it through the system, we would have been shown to be sharing completely identical segments, while 23andMe showed we only share half-identical segments. It was basically confirmed by a specialist at this point, and the same feeling of dread I had the other night began to set in again. My friend called an hour later, telling Sarah and I to upload our raw data to a third-party DNA site online, as extra confirmation. We did just that, and surprise surprise, we're shown as being half-siblings. Sarah and I spent the rest of the day calling both of our parents and explaining everything. We all came to the conclusion of Sarah and I taking a weekend trip back home, to see how this all started. This idea came to me the same night when the whole ordeal began. Ever since that night, Sarah and I, understandably, haven't been the same. I've been trying to mentally cope with my emotions. The logic part of me is telling me, incest bad, not right, break up, while emotionally, I still love Sarah. I'm having this constant battle in my head, and I'm sure Sarah is too. All of this was especially apparent when Friday rolled around. We both packed our bags and hopped into my car. During our entire drive up north towards home, not a single fucking word from the both of us. 5 hours later, we finally made it to Sarah's house, the agreed meeting destination. Right before we exit the car, my brain decides to short-circuit. I grab Sarah's hand and lean in to kiss her. She stops me, looks me in the eyes, and after brief pause while teary-eyed says, "No matter what the outcome of all this will be, I'll be leaving having gained a brother." That shit hit me hard. We both hug each other and start crying. For the first time in nearly a week, I felt some kind of relief while simultaneously thinking, WTF is going on? Sarah and I, both being the emotional meat bags we are, stop hugging and head inside before one of us mentally breaks down, again. 2 hours later my parents arrive, and we all sit down and formally meet for the first time. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention how this is the first time both my parents and I are meeting Sarah's family? Imagine how fucking awkward that shit is. I'll spare you all the cringeful details of all of us trying to make the whole situation a normal conversation. Both of our mothers brought the sperm donor IDs. For those of you who don't know what that is, when a woman has received a sperm donor sample from a cryobank, it comes with an ID that is unique to that specific donor. Our mothers compare the IDs and, they're a match. Sarah and I were conceived from the same donor, which we had already guessed to be the case. The rest of the night was spent discussing what to do going on. As much as I still had feelings for her, Sarah and I came to the conclusion of breaking up. We decided to go to a bi-weekly counseling therapist, to help us get past all this crap and transition into a sibling relationship. We spent the rest of our weekend catching up with our families and headed back to uni on Monday. As of now, 12 days later, Sarah and I are going to therapy together and we've maintained a friendly relationship, still keeping in touch throughout the week. Mentally, we're both much better but still have a long way to go. It's too early to tell, but I have hope for the future. Q&A. Question: when were you both conceived? Answer: we were both conceived a month apart, and born 5 weeks apart. Question: do you guys look alike? Answer: no, not really. The only thing we have in common are our somewhat similar noses. Question: what were your ancestry results? Answer: why this was a really common question I got through PM, but here you go. Question: what town are you both from? Answer: no. Question: why do you both care? You should stay together. Answer: there's no way that's happening in this society, nor do I want it to happen. We'd have to deal with social and even legal problems, depending on the state. Also, we'd run the risk of conceiving a genetically unhealthy child if we chose to have kids. Question: were you two able to find your biological father? Answer: Sarah and I didn't match closely, in terms of first cousins and up, with anyone else on 23andMe, and as of now, we no longer have a desire to find our bio father. The genetic counselor mentioned we should keep an eye out for any future half-siblings taking the test. TLDR, confirmed incest with specialist, went back home with XGF half-sister, moms confirmed the same sperm sample. Sarah and I have maintained a sibling-like relationship and are currently in therapy. Stories number 16. My 22F fiancé, 23M, wants to buy a Tesla right out of college. I think it's not the best choice, he's pissed. Help. So, Mike and I have been living together for 2 years now, which isn't that long, but it's long enough that our fiancés have become entangled. We've been engaged for a year and a half now, and together for just over 4 years. I genuinely love him and we've both done a lot of growing up over the course of our relationship and fortunately, we have grown together, not apart. However, neither of us are without our flaws. I'm still working on being a more direct communicator, for example. Anyway, the reason for this post, we pool our money into one big, family pool, and have, since we got engaged. I'm better than he is at planning for things and setting up goals, so while we discuss everything and talk as equals and partners, the bulk of the responsibility of research and number crunching falls on me, which I am okay with. We're partners and we each have our own strengths that we bring into the relationship. The budget is laid out as follows: emergency savings, retirement savings, future housing savings, wedding honeymoon savings, current housing costs, includes all bills and average food costs, date fund, pet fund, health and fitness fund, transportation auto costs, and then 2 separate funds for each of us to do with as we wish. I also ended up with a rather sizable inheritance, which he does not have access to. The inheritance is for the future and I'm working on growing it. It's tied up in investments, and not something that we're factoring into plans for our near future. When budgeting, I pretend that it doesn't even exist. Edited to add this, as it's useful information. I know for a fact that he burns through his fund quickly. He always buys the latest released AAA game, shells out for several MMO subscriptions, and the rest is spent in in-game cash shops. I am 100% fine with this. This is not the issue here. The issue is that $1,000 recently went missing from our wedding fund. We're not planning a big wedding, and the wedding will, when all is said and done, cost around $2,000 itself, and I was hoping to have another $500 for the honeymoon. By the way, because I'd rather save for a nicer house, I agreed to no engagement ring and just basic $100 wedding bands. I'm the furthest thing from a bridezilla. That's a lot of money to just go missing, especially since we're both still students who are working somewhat crappy student jobs. I am actually quite proud of myself for just calmly and bluntly asking what happened to that $1,000, and he informed me that he had reserved a Tesla Model 3 for himself. He could tell that I wasn't thrilled about that, and he asked if I was upset. I said, yes, but I don't want to talk about it right now. He asked if I was going to do some research and I said, yes, and went off into my study area. Things have been a bit weird since then. He's angry with me because he doesn't feel like I'm supporting him, and he says I must not want him to have nice things, like his dream car. Now, I've already secured my first out-of-college job. On just my salary alone, we would be able to afford the Model 3, but I have strong feelings against living at your means right out of college. I personally feel like you should be living like you're still in college, as far as budgeting goes, for the first few years, in order to be able to make big purchases like a house and to set your future up for success. He had said that he agreed, when we set up our goals together and discussed this, and I am hurt and upset that he didn't talk to me about this major purchase before going through with it. He still hasn't gotten any job offers that he's interested in, they didn't offer good enough packages, and I think he feels like he needs to get a better offer than me, because none of the offers were skimpy, they were on par with or slightly below mine. I feel like he's trying to spend money that we don't have, for himself, without even thinking about how it could impact everything else. That $1,000 could have been shifted from the wedding fund to the moving costs fund, for example. I strongly feel like it could have been better spent. We are both still driving our beaters, but, when we relocate for my job, we can easily get rid of them thanks to the amazing public transport that we will have available to us. We even talked out the plan for transportation, months ago, when my offer was still just tentative. TLDR, Fiancé wants a Tesla, I want more information and to talk about it as a partnership, but he won't calm down. What do I do? Am I wrong to be upset and feel betrayed by all of this? How do I frame this so he doesn't think that I'm trying to take nice things away from him or otherwise stifle him? How do I get him to approach the topic more calmly? Also, is a Tesla, even a budget one, a smart choice right out of college? Relevant comments. OOP added this in the comments. The thing that really gets me is that assuming my job offer pans out, we will be moving to NYC. I'm not sure where he thinks a Tesla is going to fit into that plan that he was very much on board for. This just feels like it's coming out of nowhere. Commenter 1. Then this guy is just a moron. Is this really what you want to deal with the rest of your life? Reply. He's never done anything like this before, which is what's so hurtful to me. We generally talk to each other about purchases over $500 even if it does come from our individual allowances. It's what we've always done. This is just so out of the blue. I'm now wondering if this is just a warm-up for more things like this, I don't know. Commenter 2. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. He is showing no remorse for stealing from your wedding fund the wedding he wanted and is now trying to make you the bad guy for ruining his dreams. Nice. Commenter 3. First, I believe you can get the deposit back. The Model 3 deposits are refundable until they go into production. Maybe he was thinking it was reasonable to put it down just to hold a place in line, then reevaluate at a later date and get it refunded if it wouldn't work out. But this doesn't justify how he went about it, taking the money out of a together fund rather than his fund. He may be resentful that you want a wedding at all and are sacrificing his dream car for it. Or feel that he doesn't have enough control of the finances. But again, you to talk about it to resolve this. Calmly. You sound like you're quite upset about this too. Please try to calm down and listen to his side, even if it does end up being as dumb as wanting a dream car right out of school. Reply. I wanted to elope, but he wanted the wedding. So I said okay, and planned a very frugal but still beautiful wedding for us that he didn't want to help with because he hates planning events. I'm upset because the person who I felt like was on the same page with me wasn't, and I do feel a bit betrayed, but I have listened to him. I sat there quietly the morning after when he laid out how much getting a Tesla like all of his friends are means to him. I still don't think it's a good enough reason to take our shared money without talking to me first, for a car that he will never let me use. His words that came out when I was listening to him. Neither of us are more in control of the finances than the other, although I do more of the number crunching. When we pay bills, set goals, make purchases, etc., we talk everything through together. Commenter 4. For a car that he will never let me use. So he committed to a $35,000 purchase without consulting you. 2. Has no job lined up, so you might be paying the whole $35,000. 3. And you can't drive it, even if you pay for it. Is this all correct? Commenter 5. Who's putting the money in the joint accounts? Is it like 50-50? Reply. It's 70-30 with me being the 70. He does slightly more of the housework to compensate for it, and we do treat the finances as if they were 50-50. OOP on the original plan for transportation when they moved to NYC. Our plan, that we agreed upon and fleshed out when the offer became more than just a thought, was that we would get rid of our current vehicles and get 2 really nice bicycles and otherwise plan to use public transit, so this Tesla thing is extra weird to me. This is nowhere near what our plan was. OOP when told she can't change him by arguing with him. I honestly haven't nagged or argued with him about it. I've informed him that I am upset, but that I'm not ready to talk about it yet because I need more information before going into that conversation. I came here to try to get some perspective on how to even frame that conversation. The only interactions we've had about it yet have been the night I found out about it, and the morning after when I asked him to explain his reasoning for doing what he did. I honestly do not see how I am nagging him. I have yet to express my personal feelings about this to him, because I honestly don't know how to get him to approach the conversation with me from a position that isn't adversarial. Since I said that I'm unhappy with his choice, he's been very mopey in making passive-aggressive comments about how I must not love him, I don't want him to have nice things, shit like that. I don't feel like that attitude is conducive to a constructive conversation, and I honestly am starting to worry that he might get physical with me if it comes out that I am not supportive of getting the Tesla and present to him all of the reasons why. Further, I'm still sorting out in my own mind all of the reasons why I'm not okay with this. Commenter 6. I honestly am starting to worry that he might get physical with me. Wait a minute, this is a really bad sign. Has he gotten physical with you before when he's upset with you? Reply. The only time he's ever been aggressive with me physically was when we were in the middle of sex early on, and he tried to initiate anal and I told him no because it makes me uncomfortable and has never felt good to me. I've tried. He did lash out physically then and didn't want to resume other activities that night. I chalked that one up to some disappointment at being denied something he enjoys and it's never happened again. However, he has gotten physical with people when they've really upset him, which admittedly is rare, but at the same time, it is a worry in the back of my mind. I don't think it'll happen, but the possibility does have me worried, and I want to handle this as sensitively as possible. Update. I don't know how many of you wanted an update, but I'm giving one because I feel like I owe it to this community. Y'all saved my ass and helped me wake the fuck up. I read every single comment that was sent to me and I took them to heart. I realized that my relationship with Mike is toxic and that I needed to get out of it. I graduate next month and have my dream job secured. I might be in pain right now, but it will pass, and I will build a life for myself. This all moved pretty quickly. This morning, I told Mike that I had to talk to him, and it was important. We talked about the Tesla and why he would commit to purchase something knowing full well that it conflicted with the standing plans and without even talking to me like a partner. He made a comment about not wanting to have to ask permission to buy something as simple and basic as a car, and I reiterated that he doesn't need permission, but he does need to include me in large plans that impact us both. I know that I sounded very rigid when it came to money, in my post, but I'm really not. I'm just well organized and I pride myself on that. There is plenty of room for spontaneity and we both have somewhat generous pools of money to do things with, and I've never questioned any of his purchases before, or wanted him to ask permission for anything. I just wanted to be included in the thought process. He told me that he was considering taking out a loan for the car, and we went through all of the reasons why that is a bad idea, especially with his massive student debt. He lashed out at me because I'm apparently approaching this from an unreasonable position of privilege in that I don't have any student debt, and I don't understand how all debt can be good. I don't have debt because I got some great grants and scholarships, and the meager loans I did take out have already been paid off. My education wasn't handed to me, as he was implying. I became emotional during our talk, and I told him that I had to call the wedding off, and I will be moving out because this is an irreconcilable difference, and I can't be with someone who doesn't share the same goals that I do, or at the very least has respect for me as a person. He didn't seem to care, and went back to his computer to play one of his games. That was several hours ago, and I've been busy sorting things out. We rent from his dad and I was never on the lease, so I don't have a landlord to work anything out with since it was all under the table anyway. I still alerted his dad that I'm moving out, and he surprisingly wished me well and told me that he knows I'll be a success someday, and he's just glad that he'll be able to say that he knew me when. That hit me so hard. I'm finding that I'm more upset about losing his family than I am about losing him, at least right now. My parents are both gone, and his family stepped up majorly and made me feel like I still had a family. Anyway, untangling assets has been very easy. Since we did maintain separate accounts, I just deposited money into his for his spending account, and we're only legitimately joint on the wedding account. I'll get that closed down this week. I'm writing off the $1,000 as a loss and will let him deal with the Tesla mess on his own. Who knows, maybe he will sort everything out, but I didn't want to go along for that ride. I'm writing this from my best friend's place. She's insisting that I stay here with her until I have to leave, and I am so thankful for that. I had never told her all of what was going on with us, and she was horrified that he'd do any of what he did, really. She offered to round up her brothers and cousins and go give him a talking to, which made me laugh. She's sweet and she's helping me cope with my feelings about everything that happened. I'm feeling sad and down, but I'm also already feeling relieved. Most of my things are already out of the apartment and are in my friend's garage, and I'll be getting a storage unit this week as well, but she's telling me there's no rush. Gah, sorry for all the rambling. Anyway, thank you all for helping me see all of the things that I didn't want to see or couldn't see because everything had just been so normalized. I'm now apartment hunting, so I won't even be restricted as far as what kind of place I'm looking for, so that's another bright point. I'm a weird mixture of sad, angry, relieved and excited right now. TLDR, dumped the motherfucker and am moving to NYC on my own. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but let me say that I am so proud of you for recognizing that this will be better for you in the long run. You don't need someone like him to drag you down when you are so full of potential and have worked so hard. Go find yourself a beautiful apartment, because you really deserve it. Reply. Well, the tentative plan is to find the cheapest, smallest place I can, in a still relatively safe area and save until I can find something better and have a better idea of where in the city I want to live. It's weird to just be totally free, but I like it. It's the first time I've ever been entirely alone. I think this will be a good thing in the long run, at least I hope so. Commenter 2. Do you care that he didn't care that you left at all? Reply. I do, but I think I'm still a bit in shock over everything, to be honest. I needed to get out ASAP once everything really hit me. Holy shit, was that toxic. However, I don't think the reality of the breakup itself has hit me yet. I'm glad that I have a few months to process and grieve and move on before needing to move to New York and start that job. Commenter 2. Good for you, girl. So proud of you. You're certainly an inspiration to this girl who doesn't know how to get out of a shitty relationship. Reply. Honestly, having a bunch of random people who don't know me scream at me like, "What the fuck are you fucking doing? Are you a moron?" helped a lot. The outside perspective and the fact that no one answered the question I was asking, rather answered the question that I was too afraid to ask, gave me the nudge to really breathe, take a step back and evaluate it all, and then something clicked inside of me and I had to make it happen. I'd probably still be with him, had I not gotten these outside views, because honestly, taking some distance, it was obvious. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, you can do it too. I guess we all have to get to our breaking point first though, where we say, hey, I deserve better than this and I'm not going to take this shit. Reddit gave me the courage to do that. You keep doing what you need to, and you'll be out soon enough too. I have faith in you, random internet stranger. You've got this, too. Stories number 17. Aita for telling my boyfriend I don't want his brother living with us. Me, 29, and my BF, 30, have been dating for 3 years and living together for 2. He has an older brother, 32, who lives with their friend. He has been living with his friend rent-free for about 5 years now. His friend is getting more serious in a relationship and gave my BF's brother a year to find a new place to stay. His brother is kind of a jerk, and him and I don't get along too well, but I tolerate him because he is my boyfriend's brother. He does not have a lot of motivation and currently does not make enough money to live on his own and says he has no savings. His girlfriend also lives with him and she does not work, so they are currently sort of a package deal. I mentioned to my boyfriend before that I really don't want his brother to move in with us if he does not find a place by December. We do not have the room, our guest room is directly off of the main living space and we only have one bathroom. They also have no parents, so parents are not an option. He says that he will not let his brother be homeless and if he stays with us he would only let him stay for 3 months, but I know it would be longer. If he can't find a place in a year, what will an additional 3 months do? It would be one thing if I got along well with his brother, but his brother constantly makes rude comments and relies on everyone else to help him. Just this year my boyfriend has given him his old car for free, pays for his car insurance and paid to fix his gaming computer. My boyfriend and I just got into an explosive fight over this and it ended with him basically saying I have no say in this decision and if it comes down to it his brother will live with us. I have approached this nicely but tried to explain how uncomfortable I would feel, not to mention his brother works night shifts and sleeps all day, so I will feel like I have to be quiet all day in my house. I don't think I am being unreasonable expressing my stance on it. I don't want his brother to be homeless either, but I don't want him to come here. Aita Reddit. We rent a house, not an apartment. The landlord is a family friend so he will not care about the extra tenants. My name is not on the lease, we just never felt the need to update it. We split bills pretty equally, although he pays a little more because he makes more and I still have student loans to pay. We both work full-time and make decent money. Edit. I really wasn't expecting so many responses. Thank you so much everyone for validating me and making me not feel crazy. Thank you all for the advice. I will update you all, I promise. Stories number 18. I enjoy wearing perfume, but tend to stick to indie oil scents, since the smell tends to stick closer to my skin, so, in theory, I don't bother my coworkers, and also because I seem to be sensitive to the alcohol that a lot of spray perfumes use. I also tend to use unscented deodorant and laundry detergent. I really dislike how chemical scented products like this tend to be. About a month ago, one of my coworkers told me that the perfume I was wearing bothered her. I work closely with her, so I immediately apologized and washed it off, and haven't worn any of my perfumes since. I don't have a huge wardrobe, so most if not all of my office-appropriate clothes have been washed since then, so I'm pretty sure that there are no lingering traces hanging on. My problem is that this coworker is now complaining constantly about the perfume I'm not wearing. She even went to my manager, who pulled me aside and asked me about things like deodorant and bath products. I've tried to explain to my coworker that basically nothing I use is scented anymore, but she makes exaggerated sniffing noises and says things like, "Oh, patchouli again," when I get near her. Again, I am not wearing any perfume, my deodorant is unscented, I shower every morning and my body wash is lightly lemon scented and doesn't stick around. It's reached the point where it feels like juvenile bullying and I honestly don't know what to do. Update. So, this is actually hilarious. After posting to AAM, I decided to try one final desmellification and see what happened. I found a relatively cheap unscented body wash, and, since the weather had finally turned hot for the summer, got my summer clothes out of storage. I don't wear any of my heavy scents in the summer, so none of those clothes have been touched by the foul scourge that, apparently, is patchouli. All my coats, gloves, scarves, etc., went into storage. Monday, I go into work wearing summer clothes, coworker makes a comment. I go into my manager's, who is fortunately a super chill lady, office and ask her to smell me. She knows what's going on with coworker, and agrees. Gets very close, sniffs, confirms that I am almost creepily unscented, her words. Tuesday, coworker says something again. I ask another coworker who didn't know what was going on if she will sniff my cube. Thank goodness all this happened during a slow week. In front of coworker, she walks around my cube, sniffing my chair and desk. Coworker looks embarrassed. Wednesday, coworker says something again. I lose my patience and tell her, "Look, coworker, you are clearly the only one smelling anything in this cube. Maybe you should go to the doctor and get checked for a brain tumor or something. Maybe you're pregnant." Coworker doesn't respond, and so I look up to find her looking absolutely stunned. Like, the world could have exploded right then and I doubt she would have noticed. She's super distracted the rest of the day. Thursday, coworker calls in sick. Friday, I wake up to a $50 gift card for my favorite indie shop in my email. I come in and coworker literally hugs me. Turns out, she's pregnant. Apparently she and her partner have been trying for a while and it finally took, and sometimes pregnant women just develop insane senses of smell. I didn't even actually know that, one of the commenters here suggested it and I was just so irritated that I threw it out there without thinking. The weird thing is that she swears she does actually smell something. I believe her, but have literally no idea what it could be. She was just being kind of a jerk with the sniffing thing, even though she can smell it, it doesn't bother her, and she said she thought it was funny to watch me freak out. Manager has talked to her about not taunting the coworkers. Right now she's so overjoyed that I don't think she could be mean to anyone, but I guess we'll see what happens after about month 5 or 6. Anyway, thank you for your advice and the really helpful comments on your site. Stories number 20. Arrogant middle school math teacher. My son had the misfortune of having a very arrogant math teacher. I knew this one was a wrong number at parent night, the bell rang, but she continued to drone on because SHE was more important than us going to the next scheduled class. He struggled in her class, her response was, "If you can't learn it from me, you just can't learn it." At one point we called and left a message for her at the school with a request for a return call. Of course she didn't. So, at this point I did what I do best, I wrote her a scathing letter. This resulted in a conference with us, the teacher and a couple of counselors. She waved that letter in my face and said it was the rudest letter she had ever seen. I remained calm and quietly informed her that if she hadn't been rude and failed to reply to our call, that letter wouldn't have been necessary. That felt good. We did have to hire a competent tutor for our son, disproving this teacher's statement about her teaching prowess. He did just fine in subsequent classes with different teachers. Stories number 21. Tofu. By realizing my chronic medical issue was my fault, and a pedicure helped me solve it. I've suffered from canker sores most of my life, white painful mouth sores. Sometimes multiple at once, sometimes they'd be in the back of my throat or on my uvula, which was especially painful and made swallowing and breathing awful. I would have at least one a month, sometimes more. It was rare for me to have zero. I saw so many doctors about this. Canker sores are, unfortunately, caused by a wide array of things, and it's different for each person. Not super well understood by the medical community. Too much citrus. I had an addiction to orange soda, so that checks out. Too much stress. I raised my siblings while my parents were never home, so that checks out too. My favorite medical interaction was an 80-plus-year-old doctor I met at my college who said, in his younger years, he tried to learn more about them. So he just started prescribing random things to people to see what actually helped. Steroids had the highest success rate at treating them, so he gave me a prescription and sent me on my way. It worked like a charm. Less than 2 days and they were gone. And he had specifically prescribed me extra for the next time I had them really bad. He was my favorite. So I graduate college, move in with my significant other, and the sores start to slowly decrease. I rack my brain trying to figure it out and just resign myself to it having always been stress-caused. Well, at one point, my partner catches me chewing my toenails. I'm very flexible and have a lot of nervous habits. Fingernails chewing is one, but toenail chewing is another. They express their disgust, but it's not a deal breaker and we move on. I do it less because I try to hide it, but eventually we start getting pedicures together, partially for fun, partially as a way to get me to stop. I won't chew my pretty gel-painted toenails, and then the canker sores stop completely and they don't return. But I have to know, was that really the cause? In between pedicures, I go back to chewing my toenails, for science. Sure enough, I get a canker sore days later. So I've since stopped entirely, but I so desperately want to tell other people plagued by this chronic issue that it might just be their fault, and caused by something they'd never volunteer to a doctor or connect on their own. TLDR, was plagued by mouth sores my whole life, also chewed my toenails my whole life. Got a pedicure to stop myself from chewing and the sores stopped as well. No doctor ever made this connection in my decades of hunting for an answer. Edit, to those of you who have messaged me privately saying you both get canker sores and chew your toenails, I'm glad this could help someone. The comments on this are hilarious. Love y'all, enjoy another day on the internet. This is a 100% true story. Second edit, I'm a stats nerd and I think other people are too. At this moment I have around 1200 comments on this post. Of those, about a dozen or so are people either saying this actually solves it for them or it explains their kid's issue. I've also had a dozen people message me directly saying this is their exact situation. So let's call it 24 out of the 1,200 people who have engaged with this post. This affects 1,500 people in the world based on my rough Reddit stats, and that's only the toenail chewers who get sores. Even more have said they nibble but don't get sores. Stories number 22. My fiancé, 25M, family has accused me, 24F, of trying to split up the family by not tolerating disrespect from fiancé's sister's boyfriend. How do I handle this? I need some advice as I am so stressed and frustrated about this situation. TLDR, my fiancé's sister's boyfriend has been disrespectful to everyone in the family, and now has started making comments to me. I told them I was going to defend myself next time it happens, and now they're upset with me because I want, just keep the peace. Sorry this is so long, but I feel like it's all pertinent info. For some backstory, I have been dating my now fiancé for almost 5 years. His sister, 19F, has been dating a man I'll call Bob, 23M, for about a year and a half. I immediately did not like this man when I met him, as he was crude, rude, and gave off pervy vibes, etc. Right from the get-go. For example, at his first Christmas dinner in front of fiancé's family, Bob made a joke about hitting your girlfriend to my fiancé. My fiancé's family are pacifists basically and just want everyone to get along, so they rarely bring any issues up to try and keep the peace, which as you will see, is ineffective. Bob has continued to make these remarks to others, and gone so far as to disrespect my future mother-in-law, and now has turned to me. I was not raised to just sit back and allow someone to openly disrespect me. I recently made breakfast for my fiancé's family and Bob was over. When my fiancé's sister asked if he wanted some, he said, "I only eat quality food." Like okay, I didn't want to give you some anyways, jackass. The same day, my fiancé's sister asked to see my new tattoo, the first letter of my last name behind my ear. Bob then inserts himself into the conversation, something he often does that really annoys me, and said to me, "Why would you want that on your body for the rest of your life?" That's so trashy, as if I asked for his opinion. I have never spoken a word to Bob ever because I can't stand him. While I'm not offended by his opinion, I'm mad that he felt comfortable enough to openly disrespect me in front of the whole family, knowing nothing would happen. I have been very open with my feelings about Bob to my fiancé's family. I was in a relationship that began similar to this that turned abusive and can see the signs. It's like seeing a train coming down the tracks and trying to get her to get off. I only told my fiancé's sister that I disliked him one time when she asked what I thought. We had a good discussion about it, but I left it at that, as I know that you have to figure these things out for yourself. I warned my fiancé's family that she was going to isolate, that he was going to take her away from them, etc. Bob has gone so far as to show up at their house unannounced when he and my fiancé's sister were in the midst of an argument, which she stated made her feel violated and uncomfortable. Nothing happened that time either. In fact, my fiancé's parents took Bob's side, saying he probably didn't mean it that way. My fiancé's family had taken the stance that I was overreacting and that I just need to be nice and save face when I pointed these things out. Now my fiancé's sister has started staying at Bob's house hours away for the majority of the week, spends almost no time with friends or family, and has dropped out of nursing school, something she was very passionate about. My fiancé's family are now worried that he will propose soon and that they will never see her, as she does not drive, just like I told them would happen. I told my fiancé's parents about the things he said to me the same day after Bob left, and they told me that he just doesn't think before he speaks, and that's just how he is, and that I just need to be nice. They also don't believe that I should hold it against him when he openly disrespects others, as it isn't impacting me directly. I told my fiancé later that the next time Bob says something rude to me, I'm going to address it. Fiancé agreed and told his parents, and they flipped out. They said that because me and Bob don't get along, that I'm splitting the family up, holidays will be ruined if we can't get along, and I'm the reason my fiancé and sister don't really talk very much anymore. In reality, it's the fact that she isn't ever home, and when she is, she doesn't come out of her room. They also said that I talk about him behind his back when I bring up the rude things he says. My fiancé wants me to talk to them, saying that his parents want examples of every rude thing Bob has done, said, and an explanation justifying why I'm upset about it. We're getting married in September and I haven't seen his family in almost a month because I was so upset about the things they said. I know I eventually will have to talk to them. How do I go about that? Stories number 23. Aita for not helping our former friend who tried to get my fiancé deported. I, F26, am white and my fiancé, M31, is originally Japan but has pretty much been living here in the States since he was 13 and yes is a US citizen. I also have a group of friends from college and in that group was a woman who we'll call Karen, F25, who was the sister of our friend who I will call Ruth. Ruth, who is a genuinely nice person, was our friend but her sister Karen was the golden child sibling who only hung out with us because she, Karen, cannot maintain IRL friendships of her own in part due to her antisocial tendencies and their mom pretty much pushed us to let Karen hang out with us since Karen was jealous of Ruth having real friends and we only tolerated Karen because of Ruth, who also didn't really want Karen hanging out with us. When Ruth moved here to the Northeast for college from Mississippi, Karen also followed her and their mom pushed Ruth to let Karen stay with her. Unlike the five of us, Karen did not go to college with us, scoffed at the idea of higher education and the only things she knew were what she saw online or whatever her boyfriend of the day was into. Over the years, since gradually became more and more hateful towards the LGBT, Jews, and immigrants, bear in mind that my mom is an immigrant from the Czech Republic, thus we started distancing ourselves from her after first noticing it at around 2020 or so. Ruth unfortunately passed away in 2023 after a biking accident, but we continued to allow Karen to hang out with us because of pity, I guess, but a couple in our group outright cut her off after Ruth's passing while the rest of us just tried to gradually distance her, hoping she'd get the message or get bored and stop trying to contact us. However, the breaking point was on October last year when Karen reported my fiancé to ICE because she thought or wanted to believe he was an undocumented migrant, and when we confronted Karen, the conversation boiled down to that she felt it was wrong for me as a white woman to be with an Asian man, and she felt that white girls like me should be with men who look like me, and she felt uncomfortable with how my family is very welcoming and accepting of my fiancé. I come from a very liberal, upper middle class family, and we'd often take my fiancé out with us on family outings, be it at our family's vacation home in Lake Champlain or sailing to Block Island on my grandpa's yacht. That said, Karen felt that someone of my status should be with someone who looked like me, saying that my fiancé didn't deserve my family, or words to that effect, and that she plainly said she wanted my fiancé deported so she could try to hook me up with the brother of her then boyfriend. Mind you, her then boyfriend, with whom she has a kid with, and his brother are misogynists who constantly shares Andrew Tate interviews, can't hold a job for long, yet expects women to stay home and know their place, whereas my fiancé works in mental health and I work for my grandpa's law firm. After that, the rest of us told her to F off, and up until the last week or two, we've gone NC with her. That said, after her boyfriend left her and their son, she showed up at my door with her baby one day to demand that since my family is well off, I should help her, buy her groceries, and ask my grandpa to give her a job since her EBT card wasn't working and her now ex vanished. I reminded her of how she tried to get my fiancé deported and how I'm not her friend so she should just F off. Apparently, she's also been badgering others in our friend group, and her mom even called me, telling me off for not helping Karen and trying to justify what Karen did by saying she was just doing what's best for you. I then asked her that since she's Karen's mom, why doesn't she help Karen or take her back in, to which the mom said that her new boyfriend doesn't like having Karen or her other kids around. I reminded Karen's mom that Ruth was our friend but Karen is not, and we have no obligations to Karen. Sorry if this is long, but it pisses me the hell off. Correction, I previously, incorrectly mentioned that her EBT card wasn't working due to the government. My bad, I assumed that EBT cards not working was somehow caused by Trump's executive order to freeze federal funding for certain programs, so I incorrectly mentioned that. I've never had to use Snap or Wix, so I have no idea how those things work. Update: additional info, for those wondering why we put up with Karen. Ruth was a super nice and amazing person, but she was also easily manipulated and pressured by her mom. That said, Ruth's mom said that if Karen isn't allowed to hang out with us, Ruth wouldn't be allowed to hang out with us either, and yes, Ruth was an adult, but she couldn't really break the control and manipulation her mom had over her. Additionally, when Ruth passed away, we only allowed Karen to hang out with us, mainly out of pity as her sister just died and we knew she had nobody else if not for us. Admittedly, pity did kinda cloud our judgment, and yes, I agree we should have cut Karen off immediately when we first noticed her racist and homophobic tendencies, if not ban her from hanging out with us to begin with. Update: alright, so in my last post, I, F26, mentioned that a racist former friend, who I will call Karen, tried to get my Japanese-American fiancé, M31, deported, only for her to come back begging for help after her EBT card stopped working, her boyfriend ditching her and her now being a single mom. Firstly though, I would like to address a common question from my last post. Why did we tolerate Karen for as long as we did? We were friends with her older sister Ruth, who went to college with us. Ruth was the kindest and nicest person most people would ever meet, but Karen, despite not going to college herself, traveled up here to the Northeast following Ruth because their hometown was boring. Basically, their mom wouldn't allow Ruth to have friends unless Karen was included, as Karen can't seem to maintain friendships or relationships of her own. Ruth unfortunately had trouble saying no to her controlling and manipulative mom, hence we tolerated Karen so we could continue having Ruth hang out with us. After Ruth passed away, we only tolerated Karen for a few more months, mostly out of pity, but even then, we were already trying to distance her from us by organizing get-togethers that didn't include Karen, not engaging Karen in conversation whenever possible, and basically hoping she got bored of us and would leave on her own. That didn't work, and admittedly, it was too passive. Also, I have no idea how EBT cards even work, hence I assumed it not working had something to do with the government. Now to the update. For this Valentine's Day weekend, my fiancé and I drove up here to my grandpa's vacation home in Lake Champlain for a few days of relaxing, hot cocoa, chill and Netflix. Yesterday, my friends, who I will call Chantel and Kate, called me to say that Karen came back and knocking on Kate's door, demanding that we let Karen back into our friend group and support her, as well as demanding to speak with me and Luna. This time Karen came along with her mom, son, stepdad, and two stepbrothers, who decided to drive up all the way from Mississippi for this. Chantel and Kate told Karen that we don't want anything to do with her, as well as mentioning that Luna and I were away, and not in town. They got into an argument with Karen and her family, with Karen's mom apparently calling Kate, Kamala, in a mocking tone. Note that Kate is mixed race as her mom is black and her dad being white, with Karen's mom telling them that since we were friends with Ruth, we for some reason need to do what she, Karen's mom, says and need to support Karen and her child. Chantel told Karen's mom that just because it was easy for her to manipulate and boss around Ruth, doesn't mean she gets to do the same with us, as we have nothing to do with Karen or her family. Additionally, she went on to say that if Karen is really so desperate for support, why doesn't Karen just move back to Mississippi with her family? With Karen replying by saying something along the lines of, "I deserve to live the way you all live," and Karen's mom mentioning that her husband, Karen's stepdad, doesn't want Karen or her kid living with them. When Karen's stepbrother, upon noticing security cameras in Kate's house, started trying to rip out her doorbell camera, followed by Karen and her family running off when Kate's dad finally called 911. However, before they left, they used their truck to deliberately sideswipe Kate's dad's Lexus, driving into their garage door and Karen shouting, "People like you, Kate, don't deserve to live in a nice house like this," as they drove away. Given the gravity of the situation, I did notify my parents of what happened and that Karen and her family may try to come over to our home, as well as warning Luna as well. I also called the police back in my hometown on the non-emergency line of the incident at Kate's home, and that they, Karen's family, may try to come over again to my home, but thankfully they haven't done so yet. In turn, Kate and Chantel have also given statements to the police as well. Note, no real names were used in this story and certain small details were changed a little just for the sake of the privacy of everyone involved. Stories number 24. You know those will kill you, right? Just this morning, I was at a 7-Eleven picking up some snacks, water, and a Red Bull for the day, construction worker. I try not to go with energy drinks, but some days coffee just doesn't cut it, and today is one of those days. As I'm paying, this old lady behind me makes the tisk tsk noise a couple times. I glacé in her direction as I'm thinking she wanted something that's out of stock or something. That's when she goes, "You know those will kill you, right?" Gesturing to the Red Bull can. That's the goal. I fired back, hoping they get me before the cancer does. Now Reddit, I do not have cancer. What I do have, especially before my morning caffeine, is a petty attitude and dislike for strangers getting up in my business. Old lady gasped like a fish out of water as I smiled, took my items, and left for work. Stories number 25. AIO for baiting my fiancé's mom into admitting that I am not good enough for his perfect boy. So, I, 28F, am engaged to Ryan, 30M, and for the most part, we have a great relationship. The only issue? His mom, Elaine, 57F. From day one, she's treated me like some temporary fling that Ryan will eventually come to his senses and leave. She's never outright insulted me, but it's always these passive-aggressive little digs, comments about my modest upbringing, how I'm lucky Ryan sees something in me, and my absolute favorite, I just want my son to have the best life possible. Ryan always brushes it off, saying I read too much into things. He genuinely believes she likes me. Well, last weekend, Elaine invited me over for lunch, just us two. I thought maybe she was finally trying to bond with me. Big mistake. As soon as I sat down, she went off. She said she was concerned that I wasn't the right match for Ryan. That she knows he loves me, but love isn't enough. That he's always dated women from better backgrounds, and that, when the honeymoon phase wears off, he'll see what he's missing. I sat there in shock, and then I hit record on my phone. I kept her talking, just nodding and letting her dig herself deeper. She went on about how she was only saying this out of love, and how Ryan needs a wife who fits into their family's social circles. She even suggested that if I truly loved him, I should step aside so he can find someone more suitable. I didn't argue. I just smiled, thanked her for the advice, and went home. That night, I played the recording for Ryan. He flipped, but not at her, at me. He said I was sneaky for recording her and that it was unfair because she didn't know she was being recorded. He even had the nerve to say, "She's just old-fashioned. That's how she talks." I asked him point blank, "If I told you she said all this without proof, would you have believed me?" And you know what he said? "I don't know." Now, he's barely talking to me, and Elaine is playing the victim, saying I violated her privacy, and that she was just looking out for her son. Meanwhile, I feel completely gaslit, like I should have just stayed quiet and let her keep disrespecting me. Stories number 26. Aita for refusing to let my kid see my mother after she sold the home I paid for. For nearly 9 years, I lived in and paid for a home under the agreement that once it was paid off, my mother would transfer the title to me. The home was in her name, but I covered the mortgage, lot rent, and all expenses. I also put my own money into renovations and repairs like new flooring, light fixtures, refinishing cabinets, replacing appliances, and fixing the oven. My mom originally bought the home in 2015, planning to leave her husband. When she changed her mind about the divorce, she offered it to me, saying it was a great way to invest my money into something for my future. I agreed and moved in, believing I was working toward ownership. The roof and her changing the terms. In 2022, my roof started leaking. I called my mom for advice, but she didn't know anyone who could do small repairs. My boyfriend at the time, who had roofing experience, helped me fix it, and I paid for all the materials. Later, she insisted on sending out someone she knew to check the roof. Since the home was in her name, I couldn't stop her. She then decided to have the entire roof replaced without my consent. When I asked about the cost, she brushed it off, saying, "Don't worry, God always provides." In early 2023, she suddenly demanded $3,000 for the roof, despite never discussing payment beforehand. I told her this felt unfair, since I never agreed to it. I offered to make monthly payments, but she was furious. Her final ultimatum. By early 2024, I was less than $3,500 away from fully paying off the home. I was ready to be done with all the drama. But then, in February 2024, my mom raised the roof cost by another $1,500, bringing it to $4,500, and added other random fees, telling me I had 1 week to pay over $20,000 or move out. I was stunned. I asked why, and all she said was, "The choice is yours to make, you just have to decide what path to take." No explanation, just an ultimatum. When I refused, she started making my life hell. In April 2024, she showed up unannounced and refused to leave until the police made her. At that point, I had no choice. I packed up my kids and moved out on May 1, 2024. Not long after, she sold the home I had spent nearly a decade paying for, keeping all the money for herself. My family thinks I should move on. Now, my family says I'm the bad guy for cutting her off and keeping her grandkids away. But my kids want nothing to do with her. They were old enough to understand what happened and felt just as betrayed as I did. To make things worse, she has been showing up uninvited to my kids' events and causing scenes. I'm now looking into legal options to keep her away, as I don't want her forcing her way back into their lives. My family says I should just move on because it's not worth losing family over. But I can't just forget about all the money I put into that home. It's been almost a year, and I am now seeking legal advice because I refuse to let her get away with it. I feel like I owe her nothing at this point, but my family keeps guilt-tripping me, saying I'm being too harsh. Aita for refusing to let my kids see my mother and not just moving on like my family wants me to. Stories number 27. I'll do what I want in my own yard. Okay, I'll make it impossible to enjoy your air. Last spring, my old neighbor, who was a saint, sold her house and moved away. The people that moved in were awful. The guy, who we'll call Pete, owns some sort of a new black Mustang that sounds like it has no muffler. And he revs it up and down the subdivision streets in the evenings literally 5 days a week when a lot of people, myself included, sit on the back porch and watch TV during the summer. It is relentless. This guy also drives up and down the state highway that is on the other side of my house doing the same thing but louder because it's a 55 miles per hour speed limit. You can hear it for miles. And he has friends over regularly in the backyard, and they sit there on the weekends and some weeknights, revving up the car. It truly is so loud that you cannot do anything but wait for him to be done. There was a big Facebook conversation in the HOA group, and a bunch of neighbors politely asked him not to do this. Pete's exact response: "I pay a lot of money for this house. I'll do what I want in my own yard, and the streets are public." Well, I didn't like that, so here's what I did next, with a little context. Our subdivision has about 150 houses on about 300 acres. It's big. Most of the properties in this subdivision are between 1 to 4 acres in size. I have a 3-acre corner. Due to an agreed-upon land split sale 10 years ago between the HOA, all neighbors within the vicinity, and the former owners, my next-door neighbor's house is on the smallest piece of property in the subdivision at 0.45 acres. I've attached a stunning artistic representation here. Note the green borders, those are all 10-foot privacy fences that are white vinyl. And note the little pentagon shape, that comes in handy later. The only side of Pete's house not bordered by somebody else's privacy fence is the side that my house is on. Well, I know from 15 years of living here that any time I have a fire on the side of the yard next to Pete's, the smoke is guaranteed to travel in the direction of Pete's house. I know this because I couldn't ever have a fire when my old neighbor was outside, as it would literally fill her backyard with smoke if ever the wood had even a hint of moisture in it. So, I moved my fire pit about a dozen years ago to the other side of my house and towards the road so that I could be a good neighbor. And you know, Pete letting me know that he wouldn't quit making noise reminded me that I just loved having my fire pit right in the middle of my backyard. That's where the little pentagon is in the diagram above. It took me a single weekend to dig up the pavers and blocks, move them back to my preferred spot, and get myself a fire going in my new fire pit. I just need to wait until Pete had people over. I made sure the inaugural fire was a good one. Pete had friends over, it was a nice day, and so I started the fire. Got it just about started, and then I added all the wettest, grossest wood I could. And about 10 minutes later, Pete and all of his friends were visibly upset by the stench, so they all went in. They came back out a little later, I added more wet, nasty wood. They went in again. I kept that up the entire day, and then I added a bunch of grass clipping to keep it going overnight. The next day, still smoldering. Still smelling awful. I put out a Facebook post on the HOA website that let people know I'd be continuing to utilize my fire pit as often as possible, so they could bring me their lawn scraps. I had about 20 people respond in a few hours saying their clippings were all mine. I kept that fire going. My dogs are good alarms, and they rush outside anytime anybody is in Pete's backyard, so I would hear the dogs scramble, go out, and add more clippings. After about 3 weeks, Pete and his wife came out and very kindly asked me what was going on with the fire pit. She very politely informed me that her hair would smell like a campfire if she went into her backyard for any amount of time, and they could smell it coming into their house through their ductwork. He said I was making it hard for him to enjoy his backyard with his friends. They asked me if I could ease back with the fire because I probably didn't know that it was impacting so much of their home life. I looked at him and his wife, and I said that it was clear that sometimes we didn't recognize how big of an effect something could have on our neighbors until they told us about it. But then I said, as objectively as possible, that I normally live by the same "I'll do what I want in my yard" thought process as Pete does. I have a right to enjoy my yard. I looked at Pete dead in the eyes and said, "And I know you support that because of how the conversation concluded about your car, right, Pete?" He looked at me like I scratched his favorite CD. He knew what I was doing. And his wife looked at him and it just dawned on her. She said she gets it, and we won't hear the Mustang anymore. I said, thanks. I took a gamble and put the fire out right after that. It was the right call. I haven't talked to them much since. I'm not too concerned about that because I haven't heard the Mustang since either. All in all, a good little case of petty revenge. Stories number 28. I want to wheeze every time someone says that Eastern European women are submissive. The literal stereotype of a Russian woman is smacking her husband on the head with a pan for drinking again, not condoning domestic violence BTW. Also, during the USSR, men and women were equal. Every job that a man did, a woman did too. Dirty jobs too. If you wanted to be a housewife, no, jail. But education was free. That's why every woman has education and works. If you don't, you're bum, even if you're a woman. Maybe in some rural backwoods gypsy Balkan village you can purchase a woman from her father for 3 goats, but not the average woman. So I don't understand where the submissiveness stereotype is from. Movies? Ads? Music? Maybe it's just goobers fetishizing us. Stories number 29. Aita for letting my daughter have her own bedroom. My husband and I have 3 kids, 14M, 13F, and 10M. We used to live in a 2-bedroom house where all the kids stayed in the same room and shared the same bathroom. There were many arguments about bedroom and bathroom space, especially amongst the 2 oldest. We have just purchased our first home and the house has 3 bedrooms. As my middle child is the only girl, I thought it would be more appropriate for her to have her own room and bathroom away from the boys, so I gave her the sole bedroom bathroom and the boys share a room. However, my oldest son has been moping about it ever since we moved in. He believes since he is the oldest he should have his own room. I told him it is better for him and his brother to be in one room, but he is still complaining about having to share a room with a little kid and not having his own space. My oldest has started barging in my daughter's bathroom when he has his own with his little brother. I told him to stay out of his sister's bathroom, but he got upset saying he doesn't have a damn thing to himself. I grounded him for cussing at me. My husband later on went and talked with my son and now thinks maybe our son is right and he should have his own room as the oldest. Stories number 30. Aita for refusing to switch seats on a plane, even though a mom started crying. So, I, 27M, was on a long-haul flight, about 10 hours, and I had booked a window seat months in advance. I get motion sickness, and the window helps a lot. Plus, I was planning to sleep for most of the flight. When I got to my seat, a woman, maybe mid-30s, was sitting there with her baby on her lap. I politely told her that she was in my seat, and she immediately looked uncomfortable. She said she thought it would be okay since she wanted to sit with her husband, who was in the middle seat next to her. I asked where her original seat was. Turns out, she was supposed to be in the middle seat of the row behind us. She asked if I could just take her seat so she could sit with her husband and baby. I glanced back and saw her seat was squished in between two big guys, and I already knew that wasn't gonna work for me. I apologized and told her that I really preferred to keep my assigned seat. She kept insisting, saying, "It's just a seat, and I'm a mother traveling with a baby." The husband wasn't really saying anything, just giving me a guilty look. A flight attendant came over because she was getting upset, and when I explained the situation, the attendant told her she had to sit in her assigned seat if I wasn't willing to switch. Then, she started crying. Not like full-on sobbing, but she looked really frustrated and kept shaking her head like I was some kind of monster. I felt bad, but also, I paid for this seat and specifically booked it early. The guy next to me whispered, "Good for you, man. People always try to pull this." After takeoff, I put my headphones in and tried to sleep, but I could feel the people behind me glaring. When we landed, the husband mumbled, "Must be nice to have no empathy," as I grabbed my bag. Aita for not giving up my seat. Stories number 31. Got a silly question. Are men really that simple? My partner is absolutely obsessed with anime. Our room is practically a shrine to it. This past Valentine's, he went all out, surprising me with flowers, chocolates, and even a designer bag. Honestly, I was so swamped with work that I completely forgot about Valentine's Day. It only hit me on my way home, and I felt terrible. I rushed to a nearby mall, clueless about what to get him. I knew he loved anime, and I vaguely remembered him constantly talking about One Piece, so I asked the staff for help. They pointed me to some merch, and I just hoped I picked something he'd actually like. When I gave it to him, he teared up. At first, I panicked, thinking he was disappointed. But then, he hugged me so tight, and I realized he wasn't upset. He was overwhelmed that I remembered something he loved, even in the middle of my chaos. I really amazed how he loved it. Anyone here share the same obsession as my partner? I'd love some advice on what to buy next. I want to see that same reaction from him again. Stories number 32. Wibta, if I let my daughter invite everyone to her birthday party except one person. First of all, sorry for my English, I guess it can be hard to understand sometimes. If something is unclear, I will try to explain it better in comments. My daughter, Sarah, 9, has a birthday on March 3rd. There is 11 children in her class, including her. I know 9 of them. They often visit our house, Sarah visits them, they also like to go to the park, cinema together, etc. I also know their parents. We have a good relations. The problem is another girl, Emily. Sarah doesn't want her at birthday party. Emily never did anything to Sarah, but she destroys other children's things and parents complain about her. I also know that when another child invited Emily, she tried to blow out candles and draw all the attention to herself. There was a lot of shouting and I had to pick up Sarah 2 hours before the scheduled end. But everyone in the class already knows about the party. Which means Emily found out too and didn't like it. She told her parents and they contacted the teacher. And the teacher wanted to talk to me and told me that it was wrong and that we were just making the problem worse by exclude her. Honestly, I get it. She's the only kid in her class who won't have that experience. But then again, I don't want my own daughter to have to feel uncomfortable inviting someone she doesn't like. I also don't want to force her to exclude several other children, since there are only a few of them anyway and she sees all of them regularly. My mother tells me that I should just invite Emily and watch her, or have her parents stay, but Sarah can't even want to hear about it and says that she'd rather not celebrate her birthday at all. Stories number 33. Aita for refusing to let my mom move in after she sold her house to travel. My 29M, mom, 54F, has always been a free spirit. She had me young and raised me mostly on her own, and while I love her, she's never been the most responsible person. She always followed her heart, even when it made no financial sense. Growing up, we struggled because she quit jobs impulsively or spent money she didn't have. I learned early to be independent because I never felt like I could fully rely on her. 5 years ago, when I was finishing college, she decided to sell her house, quit her job, and travel. She said she'd spent her whole life being tied down and now deserved to live. I asked what she'd do when the money ran out, and she just laughed, saying, "That's future me's problem." Family tried to talk her out of it, but she was determined. She sold the house, got rid of most of her belongings, and spent the next few years hopping from country to country, posting about her dream life on social media. Well, future her's problem has arrived. A few months ago, she called me, sounding anxious. She admitted she was broke and had no place to go. She asked to stay with me and my fiancé, 28F, for a little while, until she figured things out. The problem? We just bought our first home. A small 2-bed house that we barely have space in. We're also planning our wedding and looking forward to finally building our own life. I told her I was sorry, but she couldn't move in. I offered to help financially for a bit, maybe cover rent for a cheap apartment, but she got really upset. She said I was selfish and ungrateful, that she sacrificed everything to raise me, and now I was abandoning her. She told me that family helps family and I was acting like a stranger. I reminded her that she ignored everyone's warnings and that I shouldn't have to put my life on hold for her choices. She started crying, saying I didn't understand how hard it was to be alone and broke at her age. That part made me feel guilty because I do get that she's scared and struggling, but at the same time, I can't keep saving her from herself. Now, family members are reaching out, saying she's my mother and I owe it to her. My fiancé supports my decision but feels bad too. Aita for refusing to let my mom move in after she gambled her entire future away. Stories number 34. My colleague is getting divorced from his lovely wife and I think they're both nuts. What would you do? People can get divorced. I don't care, that's fine. But the reason fascinates me. They're stable. They're, like, so effing stable. They're parents. He's a sweet, mellow guy who's not abusive. She's a kind, balanced girl who's not toxic. They don't mistreat one another. They're so nice and friendly to each other. No animosity. They're doing great. I asked him what happened and he said they both just realized there was no passion anymore. What? I don't understand. Like who TF can afford endless, renewed passion in a long-term relationship in which both parties are also toiling and surviving in this neoliberal, end-stage capitalism hell's cape? Isn't a partnership with someone you care about and can trust and be stable with far, far more valuable? Like, if you want passion, couldn't one or both of them just make a FetLife account and get laid once in a while, fully immersed in some trite fantas and then come home to stability? Why would two really good people throw it all away for the potential prospect of something that barely exists? Edit. Yeah, I'm obviously not telling them this. I'm telling the internet. I have no interest in involving myself in his issues. This is a, what do you think, kind of thing. We get to have opinions about what others are doing. This is a safe space, it's fine. Stories number 35. Aita because I made the family cat prefer me instead of my brother. This one's pretty stupid but I need to hear someone's opinion. I, 18F, live with my parents and my 20M brother. We have a family cat, and have had him in our family for over 15 years. He's a senior but is still relatively healthy and is still like a kitten. The cat absolutely loves my brother, and has since my brother was around 13. He is not a social cat whatsoever, and keeps to himself unless he wants you to bother him. He's a sweetie and a most definite cuddle bug when he wants to be. Our cat always waits at my brother's bedroom at night to sleep with him and has done it for years. There's even permanent scratch marks in the door because he wants to sleep with him. My brother got hooked on some drugs a few years ago and lost interest in our cat, only playing with him when he literally had nothing else to do and forgetting to feed him when he claimed the family cat was his. Now, I'm a firm believer that if a pet is yours, then you should take care of it. That's how most of my family thinks except for him. I, over the past year or so, have been having the cat sleep in my room. He is now conditioned to coming upstairs at night, and we cuddle and sleep together. I feed him and give him water, I play with him sometimes for hours and take great care of him. He always follows me around the house and couldn't care less about my brother because of him not paying any attention to him. The past few weeks, I've been calling him my cat, and my parents seem to agree. I said it in front of my brother and he blew up at me, saying I was being stingy, and other things about how the cat loved him first. I just think it's a petty argument, and it doesn't really matter who the cat belongs to, but if the cat prefers me and my parents agree, the ones who purchased the cat, then it's kind of fair game. He still makes random snarky remarks and sometimes forces the cat in his room because he knows I can't sleep without the cat since it's become a routine. What do you guys think? Stories number 36. I just realized I might be toxic in conversations, and I feel terrible. How do I fix this? I just had a really tough but honest conversation with a close friend, and it hit me hard. She told me that I tend to dominate conversations, cutting people off or redirecting discussions toward myself, often without realizing it. She mentioned that this has made her withdraw over the years, to the point where she stopped sharing things with our friend group because she felt like she wasn't being heard. Hearing this broke me. I never meant to do that, and I feel awful knowing I've made someone I care about feel this way. Now, I'm questioning whether other friends might feel the same but haven't spoken up. I don't want to be this kind of person. I want to be someone who listens, who shares space in conversations rather than taking it all up. I'm struggling to process this and figure out how to change. How do I strike a balance between engaging in conversations and not overpowering them? How do I gently ask my other friends if they've felt this way without making it awkward or putting them on the spot? And most importantly, how do I forgive myself and move forward? Any advice would be really appreciated. Stories number 37. My best friend died and it's my fault. My best friend was a beautiful, brilliant, creative, caring soul. We met online a couple years ago when she was still married. Her husband beat her to the point where she was in the hospital. She kicked him to the curb, and we started talking a lot more. At some point she got pneumonia and ended up hooked on opiates. Started off with cough syrup, graduated to pills, then heroin, then some crazy synthetic tramadol. She tried to keep it hidden for as long as she could, but it became obvious to me pretty quickly. I convinced her to do outpatient rehab. She got on Suboxone and it was like she was a whole new person. We got closer, our feelings for each other got stronger. She wanted me to come visit and I started making plans with the caveat that she needed to stay clean for a few months. When I was younger I broke up with my girlfriend after she got hooked on pain pills. She moved on to heroin and was dead within a year. I told her that, and how addiction was a hard limit for me romantically. One day we were talking, and I could tell she was back to using. I asked her and she lied, but I knew. It broke my heart. I started emotionally distancing myself, telling myself that it was over before it had a chance to start. It felt like she chose the drugs over me, and over her own life. Eventually she came clean when it became so obvious that she couldn't hide it anymore. I begged her to quit, to go to inpatient rehab, even worked on finding one for her that would work with her insurance etc. It was just endless excuses, and her telling me she had it under control. It's just to take the edge off. She'd call me to talk and be so high I couldn't understand anything she was saying. I kept begging her to go to rehab, pleading with her. I told her how much I love her, how I wouldn't ever be okay again if something happened to her. She promised that she had it under control. I knew she didn't, with the level of intoxication going up consistently as time went on. A mutual friend of ours wanted to come hang out with me. This girl asked my best friend if it was okay beforehand. My bestie told her, go for it, we're not dating, which was completely true. Turns out we hit it off, and my best friend absolutely lost it as a result. She went nuts, like over 100 text messages an hour for 3 weeks, non-stop level of nuts. I never blocked her, I tried to reason with her. I told her straight up that me dating someone doesn't change us as friends, but there's just no possibility we can be anything more because of her drug abuse. She was so irrational, so deep in her addiction by then, it wasn't even possible to have a normal conversation. She went completely off the rails. The last time I talked to her, she called me so ridiculously high. She called to just tell me how much of an asshole I am. I yelled back at her, and said, enough is enough. You've been verbally abusing me via text non-stop, and I'm sick of it. If you keep it up I'll block you and that will be the end. She followed it up with more blocks of angry texts the next day as I was falling asleep. I told her that I couldn't talk, and I would call her tomorrow. I begged her to please take care of herself. Even with how fed up I was with her behavior I still cared. When I woke up in the morning, she had sent me a long batch of messages apologizing, telling me how much she loves me, how she never wanted it to be this way. I tried calling like I told her I would. Her phone was off. I left her a message. Then a day later, another. And more days, more messages. 2 weeks went by and I had to know what was going on. I called the cops to do a welfare check. Turns out she overdosed and died the day after we last spoke. Probably while I was asleep, after she sent me all those messages. I should have never let it get to that point, in so many ways. Never let her get so close to me and catch feelings. Never should have caught feelings myself. Never should have let her squirrel out of going to rehab. Never should have given her the cold shoulder when she started flipping out with the hundreds of texts every day. That last month of her life was horrible. There was nothing I could do to stop the spiral downward. I tried my best. I couldn't save her. My heart is broken. It doesn't seem real. Every night I dream about her dogs eating her corpse. I would give anything to have her back. I wake up every day and my first thought is texting her good morning like I always do, and then my heart breaks again. I don't think this pain will ever end. I miss her so much. Stories number 38. AIO My husband let his nephew bite my son so he can toughen up. I had a very horrible day today. My son is an only child so far and he is only 1 year old. He has a cousin who is also 1 year old that has 2 older brothers. They are all very aggressive, they beat each other up, bite each other and they are not well behaved at all. Their dad encourages that behavior and he is jealous of my son, his wife and my MIL think so as well. Today, his son who is one, let's call him Nick, was playing with my son when he started getting aggressive. My son was also pulling his shirt, which I stopped him and everyone was like, no, let them play. I was like, okay. Then Nick went ahead and started biting my son on his face. My baby was crying and I went to stop it and everyone kept telling me how I baby my son too much, my husband included. There was literally bite marks on my son's face. After that, the whole evening my husband kept on making remarks about how our son is soft because of me, and every time I would go take care of our son he would tell me to leave him alone. For example, his pants got wet, I wanted to change his pants and my husband was like, just leave it, it's not a big deal. The night kept going and these boys were aggressive with my baby and I let them as long as they weren't hurting him badly, and every time my baby cried everyone would tell me to leave him crying and not to go to him. I felt so uncomfortable and emotionally fucked up. My baby came to me crying and I was trying to keep my cool. He is only one, he can't even walk yet. Nick's dad was like, let him cry, he doesn't need to laugh all the time, and he also kept on pointing out how my son can't walk yet but has started walking. Then Nick came to bite my son again, and when I tried to stop him my husband and Nick's dad were attacking me again and telling me to let them be. Nick's dad was enjoying himself and he wanted my son to get hurt because he is jealous of a baby for no fucking reason. That's when I got fed up and I told my husband that he is soft himself. He only goes to work and acts tired 24/7, and even right now he is acting like he is so tired, and our son is only one, he is still a baby and a bite can leave a scar or seriously hurt him. Now my husband is acting like a victim because I apparently raised my voice at him and disrespected him in front of everyone, when he was disrespecting me with his whole family the whole time and kept on acting up on me and telling me how I am coddling our son. He kept saying it's my wife's fault, blah blah. I had to stand up for me and my baby because no one else was. Now I am wondering if I was too much. Stories number 39. My mom got a $30,000 personal loan in my name without my knowledge. The account is from February, which was when they bought a boat. Now, they've missed 4 payments and told me they're going to let it default since the boat can't be repossessed, and they're going to call DCFS on me. I knew my mom had her eye on a pontoon boat for the last year. She and my dad retired in 2022, and while they aren't swimming in money, they weren't hurting much for it either, or so I thought. They bought a boat in February for a little over $30,000. I didn't think a lot of it since they always rented a pontoon boat 2 to 3 times a year and didn't appear to have money issues. At the start of July, I began getting my ducks in a row to buy a house. When I applied for a pre-approval, I found out my credit score was barely over 600 and I had an extra $30,000 plus in debt I had no idea about. Even worse, it was 90 plus days late. I told the lender the account wasn't mine and he said my identity had probably been stolen, but it was probably someone close to me as the money would have had to go to a bank account with my name on it. I shared a bank account with my ex-fiancé and asked the bank to look into it. They said the account had been closed a couple of years ago, when we broke up, and no attempts to send money to it, take money from it have been made since. I filed a dispute with the company and the credit agencies as it was obvious to me I had been hacked or my identity had been stolen. About a week ago, I got a notice from the company to my apartment, first I had ever heard from them, saying they were going to charge off the account if payment wasn't made. I requested more information from them and they linked me to their fraud department. They were able to tell me where the money was sent to, a bank account from when I was a minor that I shared with my mom. When I called that bank, they confirmed there was activity on the account and the statements showed the loan coming in and almost all of the money being transferred into what looks like my mom's account at the same bank. I haven't used that bank in more than a decade. I called my mom and asked her about it and she, after a long pause, said that's how they bought the boat. They made one payment on the account and realized they probably couldn't afford the monthly payment for the next 5 years. When I asked why they hadn't told me, she said it was because they figured I would say no, they were right, and that they had worked hard in their lives and wanted to enjoy retirement. It ended by them saying the boat couldn't be repossessed because it was a personal loan. My mom suggested declaring bankruptcy and I told them I was going to the police. My mom said not to do that because they wouldn't take it seriously. When I told her I was doing it anyway, she hinted that she might have to call DCFS on me. My 2-year-old burned themselves on a hot pen earlier this year, simple ER visit, and was told accidents happen, he's fine. Regarding an unsafe home, I think I'm still going to the police because declaring bankruptcy would make it impossible to buy a house. I just needed to vent and looking for any advice. Top comments. Commenter 1. Copying this for every identity theft situation I see on here, since it seems to happen a lot, where you know who the person is who stole your identity. This is all information you can find in this sub and others. 1. Call the police. You're the victim of identity theft, plain and simple. It doesn't matter who did it or what your relationship is to them. They broke the law, now they have to face the consequences of their actions. 2. Freeze your credit. You want to make sure it doesn't happen again. take the proactive route of freezing your credit. 3. Monitor and track your credit. You need to be alerted if anyone tries opening a line of credit in your name. This gives you a way to do it for free and it shows your credit score. 4. Warn anyone else who might be a victim. This includes family members or anyone else whose social security number might be compromised by the thief. 5. Take the police report to the credit bureaus, give them the report number when you dispute all of the accounts. Most of the time, that will be enough for them to take the accounts off of your credit. It's on the creditors themselves to prove the accounts are legitimately yours and the bureaus aren't going to get in the middle of it. A police report goes a long way in clearing up your credit. Don't take identity theft lying down, even if it's someone close to you. If you let them get away with it, get ready for 5 to 10 years of bad credit, collection agencies coming after you, lawsuits, etc. Your mom 100% committed familial identity theft and now she's trying to scare you into not reporting her. Don't let her scare you. DCFS, or the same thing in other states, DCS, DFS, CWS, etc., are typically only going to take action if there is clear-cut signs of abuse. It sounds like a minor burn months ago is nothing, the ER staff is right, accidents happen. Anyone can make an online report for DCFS, DCS, DFS, CWS on anyone for anything. It literally means nothing unless it's a legitimate report, and even then, the sad state of many of these state services mean even real reports of real abuse often slip through the cracks. I would look into a restraining order if she tries it though. Don't declare bankruptcy, whatever you do. Just make the police report and give that information to the company that gave them the loan and the credit bureaus. They'll take care of the rest. Commenter 2, she stole $30K, potentially ruined your financial future for 7 years, threatened to put your child in a situation where they could be taken and put in foster care for a fucking pontoon boat. Update 1. I filed my police report the same day as my first post. The officer and I talked for probably 20 minutes and I printed out a statement from the bank. I spoke with a detective a couple days later for another 20 minutes. Fast forward about 2.5 weeks and my dad called saying my mom had been arrested. He said an officer and a detective showed up at their house asking to speak with her. When she went onto the porch, they grabbed her and arrested her. The detective, same one I talked to, explained they had a warrant. My mom has never been in trouble with the law in her life and she got arrested on a felony. They tried talking to her and she immediately requested a lawyer. They stopped asking questions but didn't let her see a lawyer right away. My dad was furious but the detective told him to have a lawyer go down to the county jail in the morning before she went to the judge. The next morning, apparently she and the lawyer talked and she was released in the afternoon with a new court date. About a week later, I get a call from DCFS requesting to meet with me about my son. I had nothing to hide so I agreed. We spoke for about half an hour at my apartment and I explained the situation. She seemed understanding and told me there are no obvious issues, she just had to follow up on a report. I will say if I'm ever in trouble, I'm hiring her lawyer. The case was dismissed at her next court date in late September. The detective called me the next day and explained the state attorney believed that they wouldn't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt she intentionally stole my identity. He said he figured it was a BS reason because he had documents from the bank and loan company. He said the state attorney drops a lot of cases, even open and shut ones, especially when it's not violent and they have a hired attorney. She never made a statement other than her attorney telling the detective she didn't do it. He also said the loan company might go after my mom in a lawsuit. What brings me back here is that a couple weeks ago the account dropped from my credit. Even better though, I got a letter from DCFS yesterday saying the allegation against me was unfounded. I'm never talking to my piece of trash mom again. Thank you everyone who gave me advice and hope in my first post. It just sucks that she is probably going to end up with a free boat out of it, unless the loan company sues her, which I hope they do. Comments. Commenter 1, send the loan company the address where the boat is kept, with a photo. Commenter 2, I'm glad you took advice and did the right thing and glad things worked out for you, except for your parents being horrible. To give a bit of context to the DA, I've posted this here before, but I'm not a lawyer but I've worked professionally with prosecution on a bunch of cases and going through an entire trial is crazy expensive and time consuming, like 6 figures and 3 years isn't an uncommon cost. My guess on why this kind of thing doesn't get prosecuted pretty much ever is because there's basically no chance of recidivism. It's a crime of opportunity where she has very limited opportunities, and it's not likely to deter others from doing this if they make an example of a couple people, so there's no real legal benefit in spending the time and money to prosecute. The loan company probably will sue her, but that shouldn't really make you feel better. The loan company issued a loan in your name based on her signature, which they can now prove is her signature, so they must have known they were issuing an illegal loan at the time. If anything, I kind of wish they couldn't recover because, unlike other random parents, other loan companies are likely to stop doing this if enough of them have huge losses from issuing these loans. Commenter 3, have a lawyer send a cease and desist letter stating, since you took out a loan in my name and then called in DCFS, you are no longer able to contact me or my child. Attach a copy of the loan papers and DCFS report. If she tries after that, look into a RO. New update. Update 2. I'm happy to say nothing else has popped up on my credit in the last 3 months. What I'm really happy to say is that the credit card company itself is suing my mom for almost $40,000 according to my aunt. I no longer talk to my mom, but she messaged me on Facebook last week. She had the nerve to ask me to both ask the credit card company to drop the lawsuit and pay half of what they're asking for with the understanding that I'll be paid back at some point. Both of these with the veiled threat she will call DCFS again if I don't. No and no. She's seeing the consequences of her actions. Top comments. Commenter 1, keep the messages. Show them to the DCFS worker. Depending on jurisdiction, making false reports could be an offense. Commenter 2, especially if she really said she would call DCFS again, then that's proof. The first call which opened an investigation was fraudulent and malicious. Even without her calling again, they could use that to go back and charge her on the initial call and double so if she did call again. Commenter 3, absolutely, hell I wouldn't wait. I'd show the police DCFS those messages now. Commenter 4, you need to file a report for threats harassment with the police. They'll be able to tell you what the charge would be, just print out the messages. You have proof in writing that she's going to commit fraud. Stories number 40. I stood up to a transpose in one of my college classes and the cops ended up being called. I wasn't sure where to post this and just want to share so I can process with like-minded women. My husband and I are planning to have kids soon, so I signed up for an Intro to Child Development class at my local CC for the sole purpose of learning more about child psychology, raising children, healthy modeling, etc. Last week was my first class. The first half of class was fine, but a woman sitting near me was a bit disruptive. No big deal. The professor was just going over the syllabus and one of the topics was gender identity. The same disruptive woman interrupted again and started sharing how at the preschool where she teaches, they go by what's on the birth certificate. The professor pushed back on this and emphasized that the standard of care is to respect the pronouns and gender expression of the child. Pausing here for some scene setting, after the fact I wondered why the professor didn't just cut the woman off here and move on. She explained to me that her teaching philosophy is to engage in discourse, even when she disagrees, as she believes this can be helpful for the whole class. I later shared with her an article on the paradox of tolerance. Back to the story. The back and forth went on for at least 5 minutes. The student's rhetoric became increasingly transphobic. If I can't change my race, then you can't change your gender. You're whatever God made you, etc. In a class of 20 people, I watched 3 different students stand up and walk out of the classroom. I raised my hand. The professor called on me and I cut off the woman who tried to interrupt me and said, "This is obviously a hot-button issue, however, we don't know the gender identity of anyone in this room or of their children. I'm afraid that continuing on this topic is creating an unsafe environment." Then I looked at the woman and said, "If you want to continue this debate, maybe it would be best if you stay after class or email the professor." The professor thanked me and moved on. About 10 minutes later, the woman turned to me and loudly said, "So you feel unsafe? Want me to move to the other side of the room?" No need. It's fine. What followed was 30 minutes of some of the most unhinged behavior I've ever experienced in a classroom. The woman stood up out of her chair and over me and proceeded to berate me stream of consciousness style. She called me mentally ill, an immigrant, I'm brown-skinned, more transphobia, hella anti-immigrant rhetoric, accused me of being a racist, at one point screamed that I was threatening her, and then threatened me. It felt never-ending. The professor stood between us attempting to calm her down. I stayed mostly silent and square-breathed to keep my cool. I really only spoke up to say, "I never said that," and nope. That didn't happen. Another quick aside, I think this is the part where most people I've shared this with have asked, why didn't you walk out? Why didn't the professor stop her? Why didn't the other students jump in? All I can say is that you don't really know what you'll do until you're in that situation. Several students left. The professor was actively trying to mediate. I was having a bit of an out-of-body moment. I didn't feel in danger, necessarily, I just wanted it to end. This is also an evening class, so it's not like there were on-campus resources at that time who could step in. Anyway, the woman calmed down after 30 minutes and sat back down. The class proceeded as normally as it possibly could and then we were dismissed. The professor walked me to my car and she told me she'd be filing an incident report. I returned to class this week and there was a police officer in front of the classroom. After class, my professor told me that when she filed the incident report and the student was made aware, she received 5 separate emails from the student full of name-calling and the final email contained a threat to show up to class and harm her. She was immediately expelled and the police were called to monitor the school and specifically the class I was in. My husband is shook up and doesn't want me to return. I'm not afraid. I'm agitated. This woman had to be in her 40s. Listening to her felt like listening to an IRL 4chan thread. Just virulent and nasty. I'll be returning to class but I won't lie and say this didn't deeply affect me. Stories number 41. Boyfriend was sexually assaulted, not sure how to go about this. My boyfriend, 18, was sexually assaulted by 2 drunk girls inside of a Target today while he was shopping, completely unprovoked. We are both distraught, but I am so worried about my boyfriend. I don't know how I'm supposed to handle this and comfort him. Sure, I know, tell him I'm there for him, support him, yes that's already done, but I need real people answers, not off of Google. The girls are both in jail for the night, and he has court in the morning. He is already pressing charges and getting a restraining order against them, but I am worried about him emotionally. He tries to act like a big strong man but obviously this is so traumatic and has already taken a big toll on him, can't keep food down for example, and I just want to be there for him in the best way possible. I also have a hard time comforting people, so that does not help at all. I need advice please, I feel so helpless. Also for anyone who is questioning why he didn't get them off of him, which is still no excuse and I shouldn't even have to clarify, he broke his shoulder a few months ago, so he only has one good arm, and one of the girls held his arms back against the shelves while the other groped him. Yes, he tried to fight back, edit, so the girls made up some stupid sob story saying how their lives are so bad and that's why they were drinking, which I think is the stupidest excuse I have ever heard. WTF does that have to do with going up to my boyfriend and molesting them? That's not a normal thing to do ever no matter what you are dealing with. People's lives are bad, and they don't go around ruining other people's. So he has a restraining order, but the judge was an idiot too and didn't give them any consequences other than the charge on their records. There was video proof that they reviewed as well. Stories number 42. Meet women through shared hobbies and sports doesn't work. Online dating is fucked, my work is 90% men, bars never worked for me, and my social circle is tiny, so I decided to make a go of actually talking to women at some of the places I frequent. One of these is kickboxing, which I've been doing for most of my 20s, I never really talked to anyone there outside of small talk during the session. So I decided I'd talk to at least a few people, both men and women, just casually, for the sole purpose of becoming more confident at interactions. I talked to a guy first, it goes pretty well and we talk about how long we've been doing the sport, we're both around 30 so we talk about that and how it gets harder to not get injured etc. We both fist bump each other and say, see you next session. Pretty good and easy interaction. He leaves but I'm staying for the next class. Okay great, it's time to talk to a woman now. I see someone who I've seen a few times but never talked to waiting by the mats. She isn't doing anything and doesn't seem preoccupied by anything else so I walk over and smile and say, hi. I get back a weak, hi, with no smile or indication she wants to be in this interaction whatsoever. It drags on for about another minute where I try to make small talk about the sport but she just doesn't want to be talking to me so I say nice to talk to you and leave her alone. I tried this again over the course of about a month and it was the same pattern, really easy and warm interactions with guys, completely icy reaction from women. I have no intention behind these interactions but to get better at them and become more comfortable and to find evidence that I can actually talk to a woman. However, all I got was evidence that in fact yes, women do hate me enough that they don't even want to have a totally platonic interaction with me. So I got zero affirmation that I can actually talk to a woman and found that the only avenue that is apparently good for meeting women isn't open to me. Very cool. Stories number 43. I've found myself officially done with dating and am really wanting to dig in even more to creating and romanticizing my life as a single, 40-year-old cat mom. What books would you recommend to read at this spot in my life? I just survived my 8 million bad date and am left feeling somewhat mystified and confused as to why this has to be so hard. I would love to have a partner more than anything. However, my approach is apparently not working, dating apps. So, instead, I'm taking a massive leap out of the dating pool and focusing on creating a life I love as a single woman. I would love any books you could recommend that maybe you found at a similar place in your life that were helpful and or encouraging. Thank you. Stories number 44. Aita for asking my girlfriend if she wanted to get rid of it and not telling my dad yet. I, 16M, just found out my girlfriend, 16F, is pregnant. We've been together for about a year, and honestly, I was completely shocked when she told me. We were always careful, but I guess something went wrong. When she first told me, I kind of panicked and asked if she wanted to get rid of it. I didn't mean it in a mean way, I just blurted it out because I was scared. She got really upset and said she wanted to keep it. I told her I'd support whatever she chose, but I also admitted I didn't feel ready to be a dad. She said she understood but that she wasn't going to change her mind. Now I'm stuck because I haven't told my dad yet. He's a single parent, and he's always been really strict with me about being responsible. I know he'll be disappointed and probably really mad. My girlfriend already told her parents, and they're surprisingly supportive, but I feel like if I tell my dad, my whole life is going to explode. I know I have to tell him, but I keep putting it off because I don't know how he'll react. My girlfriend says I need to step up and be responsible, which I get, but I also feel like I should have had a say in this decision too. So, Aita for asking if she wanted to get rid of it and for not telling my dad yet. Stories number 45. Aita for telling my partner she has no right to criticize my sexual past due to her body count. We've been together for 3 years, and we are both in our mid-30s. Before her, I had around 6 sexual partners, one of whom was a one-night stand. This ONS was with a woman much older than both of us, she was around 50 years old, and we met just to have fun after matching on Bumble. My girlfriend has always been critical of this one-night stand, mainly because she feels the age gap was too large and that it was creepy. Today, we were discussing sex, and she asked me if I had given oral to this woman. I said I had, and she started shaming me for it, saying it was a risky interaction since I had met the woman solely for sex. I acknowledged that giving oral to her was risky, but I told my girlfriend she shouldn't attack me over it, especially considering that she had 15 sexual partners before me. When we met, we ended up having sex on our second date, and I gave her oral as well. I then pointed out that she must have done the same with some of the 15 other guys she had been with, including those she had met through dating apps. She argued that it wasn't the same because she had chatted with them first and met them several times before having sex. She now claims I'm an asshole for attacking her with my commentaries.